Welcome to Heroes Have Wings, the podcast that gives a voice to the unsung heroes of Army aviation. I'm your host, Jason Santiago. For the Army aviators, crew chiefs, and flight medics who put it all on the line in the heat of battle, this is their opportunity to share untold stories of courage, sacrifice, and unbreakable will. From their beginnings to the battlefield, you hear about their hardships, the moments of doubt, and how they overcame impossible odds to save lives. These warriors didn't just fight for survival, they put others above themselves, embodying the true spirit of heroism and selfless service. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Heroes Have Wings. From a tough upbringing in California to saving lives on the battlefield, this flight medic is a definition of grit, growth, and grace under fire. He didn't just serve, he transformed into a warrior of compassion, becoming a combat flight medic with the power to bring soldiers home and alive. With over 11 years in the Army, deployments that harden his spirit, and a rack of medals that reflect his relentless service, he stands tall as proof that adversity builds strength. His faith makes it unshakable. From Fort Benning to Germany, from combat zones to classrooms, he's now building the next chapter as a network engineer. He's loyal, compassionate, and resilient. This isn't just a story, it's a message to every soldier, student, and father grinding in silence. You know more than you think, and trust the process. Carlos Morales, welcome to Heroes Have Wings. How's life been treating you?
Been good, man. Just being a father and going to school. That's it. Trying to be a network engineer and next chapter of my life. Trying to take it as slow as I can, but I'm getting there. So,
how's dad life treating you?
It's good, man. I got one that looks just like me, acts like me. I can see where my dad got frustrated with me sometimes because I'm the same way as him, and my son's the same way as me. So, and then I got a little girl. Every bit of her mom in a good way, sometimes in a frustrating way, but it's good, man. It's good.
Yeah. Would you believe that saying that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree?
That's accurate. That's accurate. At least in my case.
Yeah. Hey, I have a saying, man, that your children are just gonna, whatever you did as a child, they're just gonna bring it back to you. So just get ready for it. All right, man, let's start with quick hits. Coffee or energy drinks?
I like coffee.
City life or country living?
Country living.
Summer heat, winter cold?
I like the cold.
Movies or books?
Books.
Dog person or cat person?
A little bit of both. More of a dog person, I guess you can say.
Beach vacation or mount retreat?
Oh, that's gonna be both. I like both. I like the beach. I can scuba dive, and then I like the mountain where it's just nobody. So,
wake up early, stay up late.
Stay up late.
Yeah, I'm a night owl too, man. Action movies or comedies?
Action. I love action.
Okay. Camping or road trip?
Camping. Not so much of a road trip anymore.
Yeah, the older we get, man, I try to avoid those road trips.
Hard on my back. So
yeah. Texting or calling?
I like to call. To me it's more personal. I can sense the emotion behind the conversation.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I agree 100%, man. There's some things I don't mind texting. You and I have been texting the last few days. For work purposes, I don't mind it unless it's something I feel that we need to talk about, or I feel like something's getting a little contentious. Then I'll pick up the phone and talk. That's from a business standpoint. Personal standpoint, I love to talk to people, man. I personally love FaceTime. I don't know how you may feel about it, but I like to get my people.
I like it as well.
I like to get my people on FaceTime and just see what they're looking like and, their emotions behind it.
Yep.
All right, man. So let's get it started. Let's talk about where you're born, how you're raised, family dynamic, and see how that prepared you to get you where you're at right now in life.
Yep. So I was born and raised in California, down in the San Diego area. Grew up in a small little house, maybe had like 2-3 rooms, if I can remember correctly. It was small though. My dad worked for a dairy farm, and so they provided housing there. But he didn't stay there very long. He ended up moving to kind of like a sales job, but it was more for our denomination for the church, and selling like just books for kids, Bible books. So about, I'll say 10, somewhere around there, we moved different places here and there. Never really stayed in one place for very long when I was younger. Um, Finally settled down probably about the age of 14, I'd say, in the mountains of California. So it was Ramona, California. Um, but yeah, it was always small homes, very um, poor. And but like I was saying in my intro, I mean, not intro, but my questionnaires, it's like always had stuff. Like food was there, clothes was there. Somehow, um, my parents always made ends. Mom would learn to make dresses for the girls. I have two sisters and a brother. For us, I was always patching up the jeans because we were just tearing them out, tearing them out. So she learned to do things that would help keep us, clothed and stuff. So the food, like I said, was always there somehow. Um,
Now, your parents, are they still together?
yes, yeah, they still are. They met roughly, she was 17, he was roughly, I think, 18, 19, somewhere around there. Um, and then had my older brother first, and then it came my sister and myself were twins, and then my younger sister.
All right. So, with you moving around a lot, how was the family dynamic? Were you guys very close? Were you guys on edge all the time because you were moving? What was that situation like?
It was close. We were all really, really close, and we still are. So I think we did that mostly because we were always going to some new place, and starting a new kind of. But what was consistent was each other, but also a church. We were willing to travel to certain places to be able to go to the same church that we were a part of, right? Eventually, there was other churches that my dad helped build up, and we were a part of it, so Celtics Association. But we had each other. That's it. So
Going through that, did you learn at a young age how important relationships and family were?
absolutely, yeah. In relationships, it helped one form my family, my wife, and how I deal with her, but also um, being in the military, and navigating I want to say completely like politics of it, but making sure that you're able to navigate the situations that you're come across as, being either senior medic for a battalion or just dealing with you know people in general. So
Yeah. How was your mom and dad's relationship?
close. Till this day, it's still very close. They're, like I said, they're an inspiration to my relationships. And, with my wife, being able to form a solid marriage to show also to our kids. So
How important do you think that is growing up when kids have two parents in their household, a healthy relationship, a dad that's loving his mom, a mom that's loving his dad? How important do you think that is growing up as a kid?
very important. I think it guides a child into a direction that they can be successful. I know there's been countless of studies that have, shown that the success of a marriage can influence a child's success. So for us, it's a non-negotiable. It's showing that love in front of our kids. Um, our disagreements are not in front of them. Our disagreements are in private. And I never saw my parents argue in front of each other. And I know they had their disagreements, so and how to raise us. So, but it never showed.
At what point during your childhood did the military start becoming a thing?
Very young. I honestly don't remember exactly when, but from a very young age, I've always wanted to be in the military. Um, my brother, really never showed an interest. He ended up going in as well, but it was more of a necessity to provide for his family at the time. So, but yeah, from a very young age, I always had that. that urging to be a part of the military in some capacity. I was combat in arms at first, but through circumstances and things like that, what I got to learn, I changed to being a medic.
Are you the oldest? And what's the relationship with your siblings?
No, so I am the second to the last of the four, right? So I got my older brother. He's about 3 years older than me and my twin sister. My twin sister, she is 4 minutes older than me. Now that we're older, I don't let her forget that she's older. So, and then of course myself, and then my younger sister, and she's about 2 years younger.
You growing up with your siblings, how important was that for your childhood and just building those relationships once again and just learning how to deal with adversity? Because I tell everybody, when you have siblings, you all create your own ecosystem within the family.
Oh yeah.
So how was that growing up with your siblings?
Um, it was so with my twin sister, we were always, and we still are very close, right? With my brother, it was a love-hate relationship in a good way because I loved him and I looked up to him and a lot of the things that he did, but he always beat the crap in everything, sports related, physical. If we got into each other, always beating me in everything that it can possibly be. He's a very talented individual. Sometimes I think he doesn't understand how talented or how smart he is sometimes, but yeah, smart and just talented on a lot of things. So
Who were some of your mentors or inspirations growing up?
would have to be my father and then my brother as well. As far as outside influences would be my relatives, my uncles, my grandfather. So
Are you the first generation joining the military?
yes, in the United States military, yes. My father joined briefly in Mexico. My parents are from Mexico and they migrated over. So he joined though. It was a kind of a situation where he wasn't old enough to join, but the commandant of the post that he was part of kind of took pity, not really pity, but a liking to him
Hmm.
and allowed him to join at the age, I believe it was 14. Then they found out that, how old he truly was. And so they put him in a different role. And then shortly afterwards, he was told to step out, so leave in a sense. But it wasn't because of anything he did wrong. It's just of his age. So then shortly after that, he came to the States.
At what point in your childhood did you realize, all right, I'm going to join the military? And what did that process look like? And did you have a conversation with your parents about it?
Like I said, at a very young age, I always wanted to do combat arms. Even though we weren't allowed to watch a lot of shows or TV, we were very sheltered in that sense. Um, I always liked the military aspect of it and things. That I wanted to do something in combat arms, um, and just wanted to do something in the military. Didn't matter what it was in particular, but like I said, it was primarily combat arms. As far as having a conversation with my folks, I would say it in off subjects, here and there, like saying, I'm gonna join the military, I'm gonna go do this in the military type thing. And but the moment I decided to join the military, it was something that they took a little, I don't say like hard, but just hard. They didn't want that lifestyle for me. So
Hmm. What do you think sparked that interest? Because you mentioned earlier that you were sheltered, you didn't get to watch a lot of TV. What sparked your interest for the military? Because I'm not sure if you had a lot of exposure to it.
no, 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 we didn't. Like I said, I didn't find out till my dad was in the military till many years and afterwards. So I don't know. I can't say really what sparked it, but um the movies that I could watch or sneak off and watch with my uncles or a family member or something. I think that's what kind of gave me that little spark of wanting to do it. And then reading books, history, learning about World War II, Vietnam, things of that nature, and then kind of diving a little bit more into individuals' history, right? So, but yeah, so that's pretty much. the inspiration for it.
So you made that decision to join the army. What did that process look like? Where were you at in the States? And
Okay.
did you just go find a recruiter? How that whole thing happened?
Yeah. So by that time, 9/11 had occurred. It's been this already 3 years into the war. I think it was 2004 when I enlisted into the light entry program. Um, I was here in Texas, and just walked into the recruiter's office. At first, it was an interest into the Marine Corps. Talking to the recruiter, got to know that they don't give you the option of choosing your MOS, and that was a discouragement. By this time, I already knew that I wanted to be a medic. Um, so I kind of left that be with the Marine Corps and looked into the Air Force. Understood that they had the PJ rescue guys. So tried to walk into the Air Force recruiter and nobody was there. Um, so tried it for about another 2 weeks or so, on and off, stopping by work. Happened to be going through it to go home and vice versa. So it was easy to stop in there and say, hey, look to see if there's anybody there.
Mhm.
Again, about 2 weeks, I let that, nothing. Then I went over to the Army guys, and of course, they were open. So
Yeah.
sat down and talked to the recruiter, and he got me set up for it. So,
So how'd you get from California to Texas?
so my folks always wanted something of their own. They wanted property. They wanted something like a little small farm type thing that they can relax,
Mhm.
stuff. California wasn't that. They saw the trajectory of everything kind of going. They knew that uh, anything that they bought would end up just getting too crazy in price, taxes wise, or things of that nature. So my grandparents had moved to Texas about 4 years, I think, before they actually moved or something like that. So and they had talked to them about, property over here and how much they can get and for how much and things. And at the time, Texas was pretty cheap. So, and I was about 18 years old by that time. Had one semester of college and didn't have much of anything else. And by this time, my sisters were already in college as well, and they were, being very successful. My brother already was deployed and in the military by that time because he joined prior to 9/11. And yeah, so it was just me. Um, so they moved to Texas, and we've been here since. So
Nice. What were you doing 9/11?
I was actually helping cleaning out my grandparents' property. They bought a raw piece of land, a lot of brush trees and root beer trees, or the
Mm.
roots from that. Very distinct. When you start cutting it down, you recognize that smell, and it's
Mhm.
start tearing up the roots. You smell it. You can even want to taste it. So yeah, I was there, and we had broken for breakfast, and my grandma had the TV on, and she was kind of in shock, didn't say much. And so when we walked in, we're like, "What's going on?" And fair enough, there it is for the whole world to see. So
Now, were you watching that? Did your desire to join the military, did it increase or did it stay the same, or you indifferent about it?
I would say it stayed the same because it was pretty high up there. I always wanted to do that, right? And the only reason I did college was because my folks and stuff. So
Mhm.
my dad, he only completed second grade. Um, my mom, she completed high school and did a little bit of college before she had us. And so it was always, them pushing for us to be successful in the career aspect of college aspect. So
Yeah. What made you? I know you talked several times about being combat arms. What
Mhm.
made you want to be a medic compared to
Oh,
the other combat arm jobs?
yeah. So like I said, I wanted to be in the combat MOS, right? And initially was like the infantry type. But what changed was in church. This gentleman, he actually was a World War II vet in Korea. He was, I was sitting down talking to him because like anybody that was in the military, I would just want to sit down and talk to them. Didn't matter
Mhm.
what they did and stuff like that. Especially a World War II vet, those were like they were out there for me, right? And
Yeah.
they still are. Them and the
Same here.
Vietnam guys. So got to sit down and talk to him. He, talked to me a little bit about this and that. And he told me like, hey, do you know who Desmond Doss is? And at this time, we didn't have the movie, of course. But there was a documentary and also a autobiography book that he had out. And I was like, no, I don't know, Mom. And he's like, well, he was a medic during World War II. And so it piqued my interest. I was like, okay, cool. I was like, well, kind of know what medics do, right? Through the movies you see, and like, hey, medic, or people are yelling out, right?
Yeah.
That are injured or calling in for their friend. So I read the book. Like he gave me the book that Desmond Doss gave him and signed on it because what Desmond Doss used to do is travel throughout our church's denomination and because to talk about his experience and a very powerful one too. So read his book. It was from then on, I was like, yep, this is what I want to do. So that
So
gave
you,
me that change.
yeah. Were you when you made that decision, did you really know what you were getting yourself into just from reading that book?
No, no. I mean, you read about it, right? You read about the experiences that he had, and you think you know or you understand what that entails. The experiences tells you otherwise. The actual physical experiences tell you otherwise.
Oh, I agree with you 100%, man. It's a stark difference from reading a book, watching a movie, and then you finding yourself in the situation later on. It's crazy how there's such a huge difference in just other people's experiences and your own experience. And that's something even here on Heroes Have Wings, right?
Yeah,
We have all these people that we know telling their side of the story. Some of us may see it differently, but it's the way our brain really processes things, which is, I think it's amazing because we're still figuring
oh
out
yes.
how the brain works, anyways, right? So you get to the recruiters. How fast were you going to basic?
So I like I said previously, I was like I was in the late entry program. So this program was designed for allow us to get some college education, also come in as a specialist. So it was a 2-year program. They paid for my college, so that was another a bonus that I actually reason why I went into it. And I got to finish up my associates, um, and then I came in and from there. So it was 2 years. So in 2006, January 2006 is when I came into basic and shipped out. So,
So when just for clarification on my own then, you went and signed up in 2004 but didn't start till 2006? Nice, man. That's significant delay. I did the delayed
yeah,
entry program too, but mine was maybe 60 days.
yeah,
You're actually the first person I met that actually did the delayed entry program that long. It's pretty
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know exactly remember what it was called, but it was like I said, it was designed so I can get my associate's degree and finish up. So what I can do with it, nothing, because it's liberal arts.
Mhm.
So, but it has helped in being able to finish up what I'm currently doing now, and I don't have to focus on that. It's just strictly focusing on my core classes that are going to take me into being a network engineer. So.
Nice. And we're gonna get to that shortly. So when you signed up with that delayed entry program, did you knew your MOS, where you're doing basic, AIT, you knew all this information?
Yep, yep, everything. I had
So go ahead.
no, I was gonna say is like I had everything even down to what unit I was gonna be a part of.
Really?
Yeah. Still have those orders.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. So
Yeah.
where'd you do basic at?
I was a betting boy. So it was in Georgia, of course. Everybody knows that betting's in Georgia. And it was pretty much all MOSs that were, helping the combat MOSs, sorry, specifically infantry. So, we had some radio operators. I think we had a lot of medics, a lot of medics. My bay was probably close to, I'll say about 75% of them were going to be medics.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive. When you showed up to basic, any culture shock?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Like I said, I was living or we lived a very sheltered life, very religious. My folks were baptized Catholics, right? And so when they converted over, they took in our denomination's teachings. They're really, really hard. And so a lot of TV was pretty much, it was very restricted. There was things that we couldn't do. We couldn't participate in a lot of sports during the Sabbath because we go to church on Sabbath, Saturday. Um, and a lot of things happen on Saturday, right? So, um, but yeah, it was a culture shock. Not as much as AIT, but it was more so one, not expecting the way the drill sergeants, treated you, not aware of how people interacted. from different backgrounds. Um, but yeah.
Were you feeling overwhelmed because, like you said, you were pretty sheltered, and now you're thrown
Oh,
in the army, and so
yeah,
everybody knows the army is the melting pot of America. So you have people from every walk of life, city life. You have people that were probably in the streets at one point. You have people that were in rural America. You have people from every aspect of life.
yeah.
So when you showed up, how did you adjust with people that may have thought were different from you or saw things different from you?
I think it's just the way I was brought up, respecting others, and listening and understanding. So I would say a little bit, well, a lot of it had to do with how I was brought up as one through my parents, and the short classes or the classes that I took in college. I did take a psychology, and the teacher was phenomenal. She had given me a quote that said, "If you just stay quiet, you realize how much or how full of shit the other people are." Right. So I took that to heart, and I got to learn, if the people who talk the most and embellish things the most, right, were probably the ones that were full of shit. So, but yeah, like I said, it was just listening, honestly. I got to meet really awesome individual, Dwight, who also became a medic, and we followed pretty much the same places that we went to, right? We went to Benning. So we met at Shreveport, correction. So we met at Shreveport. He's a Louisiana guy.
Hmm.
Then we went to Benning together. Then we went to San Antonio together. And then he went to the same duty station as me, then Stewart. In Stewart, though, we were in different brigades. So we kind of got separated there. But yeah, and he was an absolutely somebody else that taught me a lot of things, right? How things interacted in the world. And he had a lot of wisdom too. So
Yeah. It's impressive how your parents, you had a sheltered life, but they still taught you the basic principles of just being a human being, respecting
mhm.
others, and just working with other people. I think they put you on a path for success because hell, joining the
Oh,
military, as you and I know, there are a lot of people in the military that don't like other people for things that don't even make sense, right? And it's
mhm.
something I've struggled with in the military. I know you probably dealt with it as well, but it's crazy how when we all get together, you start really seeing, man, people are really different in this country, and it's okay to be different, right?
Yeah.
As long as
Oh
we
yeah.
respect each other
Correct.
and we at least we know how to live together. I was on a podcast. I was recording a podcast yesterday with my buddy Mike, and we talked about something you just said, right?
Hmm.
That quote that your teacher told you, just sitting back and just listening to people.
Yeah.
And I was telling him that yesterday. It's crazy that you brought it up today. I said I could tell, and this is nothing against veterans that weren't in combat, right? But I could tell veterans that were not in combat. I could tell the difference between the ones that were in combat because the few that I have met that never been to combat, they are very, like you said, loud. Um, they want to have a commanding presence,
Hmm.
very, rah rah in your face type. And it's crazy how that quote is verifying what I said earlier. And once again, I'm not saying all non-combat veterans act that way. I'm
Yeah.
just saying the few that I've run across, I could tell immediately, like, maybe this guy isn't really what he say he is, right?
Correct.
So I do
Correct.
agree with you 100%, man. If just be quiet sometimes. I think a lot of people need to understand that. Just be quiet.
Yeah.
Just listen. Here,
Yeah.
see what's going on in the room. When you leave Benning,
Hmm.
you go to San Antonio, correct?
Yes.
What was the stark difference for you from Benning to San Antonio?
Yeah. I don't know, like sound. I don't know. So I'll say it. um. So a lot of the dudes, right? So it was an all males basic training. It
Hmm.
hadn't been co-ed and nothing like that. So it was still all males dominated. And a lot of the dudes were like, I professed my love to my wife, my girlfriend back home, right? They were writing letters, and just sharing their love interests in basic, right, and
Hmm.
stuff. And now about the first weekend we had free, half those dudes were were off. They were off
Yeah.
doing something else they weren't supposed to be doing. So, but like I said, I had a really group of friends, good group of friends. Dwight is one of them. We always hung out and stuff, and he kept it in a positive way. So I hung out with those that reflected the values I had, and those that didn't, they did their thing.
Hmm.
To each their own. They'll be accountable one day. So.
Yeah. How important was it for you to surround yourself with like-minded individuals, especially being away from home and out of the nest?
Yeah, for me, it was very important. It's goes back to that saying where it's to show me who your friends are, and I'll show you who you are, right?
Mm.
So that was a thing that my parents always instilled into us, to every single one of our the kids, and so surrounding myself with like-minded individuals and individuals that would keep me in essence as safe, right, and out of trouble. um it was important, right? So
What do you think was your biggest struggle in basic and AIT?
um AIT was probably the most struggle. The struggle that I had the most was simply the education portion.
Mm.
Benning or basic training really didn't have much of a struggle with a lot of the physical things. The way they taught things is very geared to how I learn. You tell me, you show me, and you put it in my hands, right? And it's time for me to do it. And that's how I learn I like best. When it comes to didactics, things of that nature, it's extremely hard for me to learn that way. Sitting down at a desk, so it's a struggle. And my grades reflected that in college, so much so. So, but when we got down to the actual lanes and doing the medical training and things of that nature, it just became secondhand type thing, right? So it was more of a struggle through AIT than it was through basic.
Yeah, and I want you to know that your learning process is pretty common amongst men. I was actually reading an article and doing some research on it. One of the biggest problems with the current education system that the way it's designed really doesn't help young boys and young men become fruitful, because I could attest to this too. We see it, like you show us, right? We see it, we have to get it in our hands and we have to do it.
Hmm.
That's how men learn. In the education system, it's really not like that,
Yep.
especially when they took away, those trade high schools, the
Oh,
carpentry, the automotive stuff. Like men, we have to touch to learn and we have to do. And I think that's one of the biggest problems right now with the education system, because I see that fundamental breakdown. And then we like to put these young boys and these young men in a corner, like, oh, they have a learning disability,
yeah,
oh, they can't
absolutely.
learn as fast, and all this other crazy stuff. And I think to myself, that's not the problem. The problem is how we're teaching them,
Yep.
because genetically, men, we're here to build and fix shit. That's what we do.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Tell me
we
what's
use our
broken. I got it.
we use our hands to do those things, right?
Mhm.
I didn't realize how mechanically inclined I was until I joined the army, because we have to take the ASVAB and it gives us all our line scores. And I had a high
Right.
mechanical line
Same.
score. And then I realized I love to fix things.
Yep.
So I do agree with you on that, man. It's not that we learn differently as men. And I think society, especially we as fathers, right? We have to make sure that when we're raising our sons, that we give them that grace,
Hmm.
because at one point we were that young boy struggling. We're put into a system that's really not conducive to teaching us the way we learn.
Yep.
So you struggle a little bit, San Antonio. What do you, besides the academic part, what did you like the most out of basic and AIT?
But a challenge. Basic. Um, just being able to accomplish tasks, that are difficult, right? It was fulfilling. Um, AIT is just the accomplishment of something that I perceive was hard, right? And it was hard for me. Um, and being able to accomplish things like that. So, but yeah,
So I want to make sure I understand and everybody else understands. When you joined, you were a combat medic, right? You were going to be a ground
yes,
medic supporting us.
absolutely.
All right, perfect. So you knew you were going to Fort Stewart, third
Hmm.
ID.
Third ID. And at
What?
first I thought it was going to be like the Tinkers, because everybody knows that it's third ID is armor division, right?
Hmm.
And I couldn't read I read my orders, but I didn't understand them. And it actually had a, identifier for the infantry, because at the time they were combining the combat arms, right? So you had a little bit of the infantry, you had engineers, you had tankers, you had support unit, and stuff. So I didn't know what it was specifically. So I was bummed a bit when I read my orders and I presumed that that was it. But things changed when I got to third ID and I got to the unit. So,
Hmm. Yeah, it was. What was the year when you? What was the year time frame?
so this would be in 2006. Yep.
2006.
January 10 was my entry into basic. January 15, I spent my birthday basic. So yeah. So it's in 2006, and then that's when I got to my unit after the basic training and then AIT. So.
Yeah, I know during that time frame because I was in Iraq 2003, 2004, and that
Mhm.
2003 time frame is when the army started shifting to the more modular concept that they use today. And it's like you said, they just took a piece of every aspect and they put it in a brigade. So a brigade size element, it's easier to move a brigade size element than a division. So the army realized that. One thing I will give the army, man, the army's smart on
Mhm.
war fighting, man. These guys they got that shit locked down to
Oh yes.
I don't think people understand how smart the army is when it comes to fighting war, just from a logistical standpoint. Now, can they get better on certain things? Yes, but I think everybody needs to understand our primary mission is to fight war. It's not
Yeah.
peacekeeping and all this other crazy stuff, right?
Correct.
So you show up to Fort Benning, you're E4. How old are you?
Oh, let's see, I'm 24-ish. I'll have to do some math, but yeah, I was in my 20s. Um,
So we'll say early 20s, first duty station, get the
mhm.
steward. How soon did you find out that you were getting deployed, or did you even get deployed with
So
that
just
unit?
as soon as I got there, they just had come back from their deployment, so they were in the process of the yearly rotation type thing, and they were all went on leave as soon as they got there because I was the very first new guy. Um, so everybody, all the medics had left for their vacation, and things of that nature. So I knew I was gonna go. I knew because of how people would talk in AIT, in basic training. Also, when I got to the unit. So yeah, very just as soon as I got there.
I want to touch on something. I know you mentioned that when you joined the army, you were a specialist, correct?
Hmm.
So in basic and AIT, were you thrusted into a lot of leadership positions due to your rank?
No. I think I held a squad leader position, and that's pretty much about it. Um, so
You
I
didn't
guess
get
you guys just
any.
took it easy on me. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's odd. The drill sergeants didn't give you a hard time or anything.
Um, no, not in that aspect. They give me a hard time in other things, when I mess up. Um, but yeah.
So you show up to Fort Stewart.
Hmm.
Who were you assigned with the first time? Well, when you got there.
So when I got there, I got into the headquarters. That's where all the medics go to. It's not like some other units, I guess. Engineers, we'll talk about them later, how they organize their structure of medics. But I got to headquarters, and started doing things around the headquarters area. So not to get into the infantry or into a platoon till a little bit later.
So if you can you talk about that process? Because I was talking to
Sure.
Six about a month ago. His episode's coming out this Friday. He was
It's a good
talking
guy.
about that. Yeah, he is great, great dude. He was talking about how he showed up to HAC infantry
Hmm.
battalion, and then essentially he had to prove himself to get down
Hmm.
to a company level and be a part of that line unit.
Hmm.
Is that the same process for you, or what was your
Yeah.
process like?
Yeah, well, yes. In a way, it's more of a proving, well, for me, it was more of a acceptance and see how I was, how I integrated into the cohesion of the platoon, right? And actually, it was in three things, and it was more so because I was the only medic there currently. So I was the mortar team went out to do their rotation, or some training out in the field for their shootings. And so I was assigned to the mortar teams. And they were good guys. I still have conversation with a few of them and stuff, but good guys. And then I went into Bravo Company, um, and we did a lot of field exercises, and I thought that's who I was going to stay with. And then I had to do a rotation with Alpha Company, and that's who I ended up staying with. Every single one of them, from my understanding, and talking to my NCOs, they all wanted me.
Hmm.
Ultimately, my chain of command made the decision to keep me in Alpha Company. Don't know why, but yeah. So there
And
is a
this is an infantry company, correct?
correct. So we, like I said, there's two companies that were infantry. And so there's a Bravo company and Alpha company. Of course, you have your mortar team. They consider themselves somewhat of an infantry, I guess. But yeah, so like I said, from my understanding, they all wanted me, and the decision ended up just being with First Platoon, third, third. So
How did you feel? Was your your childhood dream, was it being fulfilled? Now you're a medic,
mhm.
you're part of an infantry company. How are you
Oh
feeling
yes.
at the time?
Oh, I was ecstatic. Obviously didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I was ecstatic in the sense that everything was progressing the way that I wanted, right? So, uh, but just sorry, I lost my train of thought there. But yeah, I was excited. I was absolutely excited.
Hard was a process of not simulating, but getting acclimated and becoming a part of the team, because you are the only medic, and
Hmm.
just hearing Six's stories and other ground medic stories, you guys are very important, very valuable to the team. How did you fit in, and how that work for you?
That part was a little nervous, right? Or for me, I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to be there for those guys. Didn't know them were nothing, but it was just I wanted to be a part of an organization that was capable, and so it was just wanted to be accepted.
Yeah.
Um, so,
How soon you get to Fort Stewart? How long did it take for you to get into that company, Alf Company?
oh, probably about 6 months, and it was because, like I said, I was in headquarters and they hadn't really assigned anybody yet. They did it later on. And I think at the 6 month mark, once I was at the company, at the headquarters, that I knew when I was or who I was going with. Um,
So
like
how soon after you get there do you find yourself being deployed?
about another year. Because it was in 2007, if I can remember correctly, is when we deployed. So when everybody kind of got back from their vacations and things of that nature from being deployed, things kind of ramped up back again to doing training. So that, that's why I was going with the mortar teams. That's why I was going with the Bravo company to field exercises, ruck marches, shooting ranges, and then vice versa when, going over to the Alpha company. Then we started getting an influx of a lot of medics. And then
Mm,
the medics that we had deployed previously in their deployments. Some of them went to different units, and moved on. Others got out. They had a pretty tough deployment that one. So I was there for about 6 months, brand new. The only new guy, I should say,
So I
roughly.
wanna I wanna understand what you're doing while you're with these companies. Are you essentially doing everything they're doing? Are you
Yes.
clearing houses, shooting gun, all this stuff?
Yes. So clearing houses, obviously they put the medic back. We were not in the front of things. I did do some to learn the how they did their operations, right? Their own tactics. So I wasn't completely blindsided when if I had to pull that rope, but I never did.
Mhm.
I was always the guy in the back with the platoon sergeant. They kept me pretty safe in that aspect. So much to my disgrin, but I understand, I
Yeah.
understood why that's the way it's supposed to be structured. So,
Mhm. How long did that whole process take from getting a steward to getting to your first deployment?
like I was saying, I think it was in 2007. Well, it was in 2007 that we deployed. So I would say overall about a year.
About a
A
year.
year. Yeah.
How'd you feel
Because
about getting deployed for your first time?
nervous, slightly scared. Not so much. I had the young bravado, like you're invincible at the time at that age still. And not to like the first bullets, you realize like, what the deal is, right?
Mhm.
Um, So those nervous, more so, make sure that I was there for the dudes, not let them down.
Yeah.
Um, and nervous, for the things of no unknown. A lot of the guys that were in the unit, both NCOs and specialists that were previously deployed and knew what to expect, told stories that were nerve-wracking in that aspect. So
Mm. So where'd you guys go for your first deployment?
I went to Iraq.
Correct.
Yep. Just about 14 months of deployment on that.
Yeah. Show up to Iraq. How are you feeling? Besides nervous, are you thinking to yourself, "This is the real deal now. Let me get focused."
Yeah.
And next question is, do you feel like the training got you prepared for what you were about to see?
So yeah, the training did. I had excellent NCOs, that knew the value of preparation. Um, so everything from my platoon sergeant at the medical company, or the medical platoon, to the squad leaders, to my actual NCO, man, they prepared you for it and stuff. The shock of realizing how hot Iraq was, the shock of the culture. I've been to Mexico, in a very small town where my dad grew up, very impoverished and stuff, very similar to that aspect. But then the hostility of war, right? Um, but yeah, just interesting,
Yeah.
interesting.
It is a very stark difference, man, when you show up there. Where'd you go in Iraq?
So we were based in Fall Falcon, down south of Baghdad a bit. But we took up several COBs. So we were, in essence, take control of a building. Generally, more than likely, it would have been a school, that we took control over, had it built up for as like a small little barrack compound, housed anywhere from 3 platoons to a company. Sometimes maybe a little bit more, depending on if there's a big mission going on, right? So pretty much stayed that. We stayed in small little cobs,
What was the op tempo like?
constantly out. For me as a medic, we had two sections. One that would go out during a certain time of the day, and the other one come in, the other one go out, come in, go out. Guess what? I had to be there as a medic. So during the nights, I was sleeping in the vehicles with them, trying to get a little shut eye here and there. But I was busy, always busy. But it was fun. I don't know why, but it was fun for me.
You know, I'm smiling because we said it earlier in the show that everybody's story is different out of the lens
Hmm.
of their, out of their point of view. And Six literally just said the same thing you were just saying
Yeah,
that, these guys would go out in the morning, he would have to go, they go at night, and he realized that he's the only medic.
yeah,
And his platoon sergeant, platoon leader started realizing, like, hey, we're going to burn Six out. So, same thing, like you said, they let him sleep as much as possible at
yeah,
night
yeah.
in the vehicles. And it's crazy. You guys are in two different,
I know.
divisions, and y'all dealing with the same things.
Yeah,
How
yeah,
did you
yeah.
how did you keep yourself from burning out? So because everybody has to understand
Oh,
when you don't sleep, your cognitive thinking is reduced significantly, and there's a science behind this. This isn't just
yeah.
Jason
Oh,
making
yeah.
it up. Being an aviator, we understand the importance of sleep. Medical field,
Hmm.
you have to sleep because your cognitive thinking is reduced significantly.
Correct.
So, how did you manage that whole thing? Because this is your first deployment. You don't really
Hmm.
know what's going on. How would you handle all this stuff?
Honestly, I don't know. I think it was more the upbringing that I had.
Mhm.
Just being able to be resilient. Later on in my military career, I got to take the course on it, right? So a lot of the things hit home when I was doing my studies, for the class, and that I was like, man, my parents did this before there was a science behind it, right?
Mm.
So just the way my parents brought me up, my dad, he's always taught me that if you do something, do it at 100%. Don't half-ass it. He didn't cuss. He was and he still is a very Christian focused man. And somebody he's like, when you do something, do it right, and do it right the first time.
Mhm.
So there wasn't a sense of quitting for me at all. No matter how tired I got, I knew that at one point that I would get enough sleep to catch up. Um, And my platoon sergeant, he let me sleep as much as I could inside of a vehicle, right? Um, so if we were dismounting, send it over the radio, and the guys would wake me up and start getting myself ready and put on my bait bag, and there we go. So
What was one of the most memorable moments or mission you've been on in that first deployment?
there's quite a few of them. There's quite a few of them. My platoon was blessed enough to not take on um, casualties. I had one instance of an ID that went off that had shrapnel on a one of our platoon leader, not platoon leaders, I'm sorry, squad leaders. Um, we were quite active though, running into IEDs, getting shot at, um, shooting back type things, but blessed in the fact that nobody died. Nobody died in my platoon, or injured enough to be that point, right? So the guy with the shrapnel got shrapnel on his forearm, and that was the only part that was exposed at the time. I'll say that would probably be my most memorable moment. So a little backstory on that: we were on a patrol, dismounted, and we're clearing houses, going doing our usual stuff. And we were walking from one intersection to the next, and everybody had passed this particular intersection. It's a four-way, and it was just the platoon leader, the platoon sergeant, a squad leader, and myself in the back, kind of bringing up the rear. We happened to come across, it was in the night, we happened to come across this piece of trash, and the squad leader catches this little dim light, just smallest dim light of it that we've ever seen. And of course, curious as for all the rest of us, we all looked at it. Like I was standing within a foot to it. Everybody else, the platoon leader, the platoon sergeant, and squad leader, and the medic were standing around this piece of trash. Well, somehow somebody came up with the idea like this is probably not the best idea because we didn't know exactly what it was. We assumed it was an ID,
Mm-hmm.
and we're like, hey, wait, we probably shouldn't be standing here. We got the entire leadership here, plus the squad leader and the medic standing around it. So we get cover, and we call it halted to the searches and stuff like that. Everybody got into their positions, securing the one intersection, not intersection, but one side of the intersection, the other one, the four ways, right? So, like I said, we send all of our guys, to secure the area, and we send out the squad leader that's more of an expert at the IEDs and things of that nature. And he checks it out, and he calls it. He says it's an ID, right? So we're waiting for EOD, and he's the only one out from cover,
Mm-hmm.
trying to, assess the ID and kind of figure out what it is. Everybody else is in cover. Um, and of course, it goes off. But what is interesting about it, and later on after it's the squad leader, DeSantis, he tells me, he's like, I heard a voice. I heard a voice that said, get in now. And those gates over there weren't they're always the easiest to open up. We always used to we were first test, we would raise them up off the hinges because they didn't lock it in that sense. So that was our first go-to, just lift it up and push it out. Because the doors just never really opened easy. He said it was the easiest door he ever had pushed.
Mm.
And he's been deployed previously. And the only thing that was out from his body was his arm. And that's where he got the shot. But that would be the most memorable is him coming afterwards and saying, "I heard a voice." To me, he knew a little bit about the fact that I was a Christian, a pretty strong Christian, and but he was like, yeah, it just was easy. So, I
Mm.
heard that voice, I said, get in now, and he listened to it. So
What type of ID was it? The detonation was it?
detonation was an actual command, like a wireless command. It was
Okay.
they were saying that it was possibly like a genie type of command, so they were a local within range of it. The thing is that was the strangest is the fact that it never went off
Hmm.
prior to that, right? So you had four individuals standing literally on top of it, one of which was the medic. Obviously, I'm sure they didn't know that. I never wore a medic bag that distinguished me as a medic,
Mm.
right? It was just one of those things that previous unit that we were rolled up in, with to replace, he warned us about. So I took it to heart and changed my med bag and try to make it as slim and sleek as I could. I carried two aid bags at deployment. I carried that one that I dismounted with mostly, and I carried the second one, which had a lot more equipment and a lot more gear, um, and in a vehicle that was generally close by.
How did you feel working on people that you knew, like your friends? Because you're pretty much eating,
So
sleeping
like,
with these guys every
yeah.
day.
So like I said, that deployment, like, so the only casualty we had was that forearm, right? Out of
Mm-hmm.
all the situations we were a part of, being shot at, sniped at, IEDs going off left and right and things. So it wasn't a complete, like, seeing things that I know friends that are being blown up, half pieces, or struggling for survival, right? I didn't never saw that, never experienced it. Uh, in a sense, I'm kind of blessed in that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I'm a very emotional individual, very attached to somebody that like I get to know and stuff. So um like I said, I never experienced that, and I'm glad I did it in a way.
Yeah. At what point in your career, I don't know if it was this deployment, I'm just trying to figure it out now. When did you
Mhm.
decide or want to be a flight medic?
Well, it was a couple years later. It wasn't right away, but I started noticing a trajectory of leadership that as I progressed, I'd be pulled away from guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
My whole thing since reading Desmond Doss was to treat patients. Like that's what I wanted to do. um, because unfortunately, well, the experiences that I had in Iraq didn't allow me to, have a complete treatment in that aspect. I treated a couple of blown eardrums type things, small issues here and there, right? Dudes being dudes, rolling up each other.
Mm-hmm.
One guy filleting his leg because he was sharpening his knife and decided to do it in his boxers. Um, Simple things like that. So I mean, still did a little, that type of treating, when they were having bowel movements and having the shits, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But so I would say when I had well, after this deployment, I went to Sorocana Air Base in Honduras, and that's a strictly aviation unit down there. But I got assigned down there as initially to be a flight medic. Didn't want to do it, so they put me into the clinic because they said that if I wanted to do flight medic, I had to extend another year. And I went from coming stateside of my first deployment to within a couple of months going down to Honduras. So I'm like, I'm already missing my family. I was in Iraq for 14 months with about 2 weeks of R&R, and then straight to Honduras. And they said, you're gonna have to be here for 2 years if you go flight medic. And
Mm-hmm.
was interested, right, in it, but the 2 years, and I didn't understand, like, hey, you can go back to the stateside. It's really easy to fly back, vacation, and come back and stuff like that. And to realize how much fun I had in Honduras. Hindsight, I would have taken it.
Mm-hmm.
So after Honduras, I went to Bragg, and then at Bragg is when I really realized, like, hey, flight medic is what I want to do. I like I said, the roles that I was fulfilling, like I was becoming an NCO. When I got to Bragg, I became the platoon sergeant as a brand new E5 because the other one was previously rotating and they didn't have a staff sergeant. So um, realizing that I couldn't treat patients. So there was two options, SF or flight medic. Well, at Bragg, I got to know that jumping out of an airplane is not as fun as most people think it is. My first coverage proved it. I had several concussions. I had a dude with a femur fracture. I had a guy that had broken ankle, and a few guys that were screwed up in the trees and stuff. And that was just my section. I was the NCO in charge of it.
And this was just the first jump.
This is the first jump. I was probably 3 months into the unit. Um, And so I'm looking at these dudes. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'm like seeing I'm up in the sky and like, dude, these dudes are falling quicker than I expected. I'm like just following these dudes going down quick. I'm like, Oh, hell no. Fair enough. Start picking up the first patients. I'm looking at these guys and like, yeah, jumping is not for me. Jumping is
It,
not for
it,
me.
it's not for me either, so that's why I never did it. Before we continue with the whole brag thing, let's backtrack real quick.
Right?
What was your biggest takeaway from that your first deployment?
Ah, things aren't as it seems. So we rolled up this dude, 14, no, I'm sorry, 16 years old kid. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, the stateside kid, right? Everybody else ever could consider him a man or something. He already had over 200 and something IEDs made because they used to take the pieces, right? They do an analysis of all the pieces that they can gather from their IDs, and they can
Hmm.
get fingerprints, different things off of it. Somehow they linked it to this individual. Kid was 16, over 200 and something IEDs made. Had I don't know how many injuries under his like coalition dudes like injured because of it and deaths. We rolled him up, and I'm thinking in my head, like also innocent as well, is that this dude is a kid. Like how much difficulty can like how much is did he do? And later on we get the report, and I'm like, life is not the way you think it is.
Hmm.
People are can be deceased, like can portray something that they're not, right? And of course, a kid when we rolled him up, we was crying and stuff like that. And my platoon wasn't the nicest towards him. They knew there was something fishy, and I'm here innocent in the back, looking at him like, oh, I mean, but it's not.
Hmm.
So I think that was that and the IED situation for me were the two most eye-opening experiences. One spiritually, and the other one worldly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very profound, man. 16 years old. This dude has that record and that reputation already, man. At
Yep.
16. Imagine where he'd be if you guys didn't catch him. And
Yep.
you only get better with time, right?
Yep.
So man, so you get back when you got back from Iraq, you said it was 3 months and then you're in Honduras?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Damn. Is that something the army just told you were going, or did you have any
No,
idea what was happening?
I knew it. So I was re-enlisting. I was in with my window re-enlistment when I was downrange, and went to the retention NCO, and I asked him like, hey, like what do we have outside of the United States? I wanted to go CONUS. For those who don't know, CONUS is just any assignment overseas outside of the continental United States. So he came up with the list, right? We had Korea, Germany, Japan, um, and just kept on listing those over and over and over again. I think there's a few other ones if I can remember correctly, and then he said Honduras, and I looked at him, he looked at me, and I was like, "What is that?" And he's like, "I don't know." So I was like, "All right, well, I'm gonna go look it up really quick." So he did his search. I went back to the internet cafe and I looked it up, and it's an air base in Honduras. And I was like, okay, well, they speak Spanish. I speak Spanish. I'm gonna try it out. So I went back to him, and sure enough, we signed up and everything, um, and that's how I got it. So come to find out that it's a well kept secret by the United States Army.
That's what I keep hearing. I never went, so I guess it is a good secret.
Ah,
How did you
good one.
feel leaving? Because these are two different sides of the world.
Hmm.
And this is all happening within a pretty much a 18-month time span. You go from 14 months in Iraq, 3 months home, bam, into Honduras. How are
Yep.
you feeling when you showed up to Honduras?
Oh man, the flight in. If you have a chance of looking a video up of an airline flying into Honduras, Tegucigalpa Airport, you'll realize how scary it is. It is. So that flight in is just ridiculous. Then the travel down is coming down a mountain because Tegucigalpa, the capital city where the airport is up on a hill, and then the Comayagua, which is the town that's next to Sorocano Air Base, is down below. Man, there's cars coming, moving in and out, people coming into your lane as they're going like this, dude. I'm like, oh my Lord, this is back in Iraq, right? I'm like,
Hmm.
oh. So get to the base and come to find out that it is as bad as AIT.
Hmm.
So first night that I'm there, um, I
And
get
when you say
invited
as
out.
bad as AIT, you're just talking about what the choices individuals are
Correct.
making. Okay.
Correct. There's a leadership that was known. Well, yeah. So, but anyways, and that wasn't in the unit that I was a part of, but it was the larger picture of the base. The base command unit
Yeah.
was interesting. So, but you know, you get to experience things that will also either influence you into going into that kind of stuff or choosing not to.
Mm,
So I got to learn how to dive. And that was my weekends. Like where most dudes were or girls were going on to go to, I got about to go to the clubs and have fun and enjoy themselves, right? You know, within their preview of being able to do things and stuff. Um, I chose to go down to the islands.
mm.
So Roatan and Utila, two amazing islands to go dive. And I spent almost every week of the weekends, long weekends, short weekends, um, just down there diving, having fun. So,
What was your primary mission down there? Because you stated earlier you weren't a medic. You're
yep.
supposed to go down there to be a flight medic.
Mhm.
So, what essentially did you do the whole time, and how long did you
And
stay there?
I stayed there for a year. I went into the clinic. So I became a clinic NCO. I got to in process, out process, do the physicals for the flight guys, and any medical things that happen, right? So they come in with a drone, you know, a bone, sorry, a bones in there somewhere, you know, or get to remove it, right?
Mhm.
So it's just normal aid station type of procedures. So most of it wasn't a lot of them because, as you know, aviation guys don't want to get put down. So there's some things that went under the radar, right?
Yeah.
But that's what I got to do. And it taught a lot of things. It taught me how to see the other side of medicine. So you got the combat MOS, you got the trauma stuff, but you also got to do the clinical, the paperwork. And that's where I learned to do be by the book, right? One, our physician was by the book, very strict individual. But I got to learn like the processings of the army and how they do their medical things. So
How did it feel leaving a combat zone to now being a working in a clinic?
it's hot. I mean,
That's a
I said
huge
I
difference.
yeah, it is. And all I wanted to do was be in the combat MOSs or, you know, being able to treat individuals. Um, you know, being there in their time of need because I felt I was the best, right? I didn't know what I didn't know though. But I felt that the things that I knew, I was good. I was very good at it. But you know, there's more to it than you realize.
Mm,
Especially when you start, like I said, getting your rank and you start to get your soldiers, start to make sure that they stay within the army's guidelines, right? You know, so they're not overweight. Okay, so if they are overweight, this what do we do to get them to get them off of it, right? And then if they don't, then what is the process of getting them out, right? Or setting up the standard and SOPs for the unit, for the medical unit. Those are all things that I learned that I needed to learn when you become more and more, when you get more and more in rank, right?
mhm.
So yeah, like I said, it was a good thing, but the shock of it was not fun because I
Yeah.
wanted to do just treat. So
When you got to Honduras, were you in E5 already?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So
What was your besides the diving? What was the most memorable moment at Honduras and your biggest takeaway for being there for a year?
mm, realizing I still had issues from the deployment.
Mm,
Um, there was enough bars there for everybody to have fun and drink, and you know that's where I started to drink. For my religion, we're not supposed to, but I struggled. I struggled in my deployment things that I saw, uh, things that I experienced. Um,
Now, did you do what we all
so,
do? We all did back then, just suppress, keep it to
mhm,
ourselves, self medicate,
yep,
and keep it pushing.
yep, yep. I didn't open up till I was a brag.
Mm,
But yeah, diving was, in essence, a way of suppressing it. So that's why I enjoyed it. When you're down there, there's sounds of the ocean, the pressure of it all. building around your body. Um, the stillness, the quietness, being able to focus on your surrounding in a positive way, right? I mean, I knew there's things out there that can kill you, right? Sharks,
Hmm.
not very common when in that area, but there's that in the background. Um, and then for the most memorable experience was swimming with whale sharks and seeing
Mm,
them up front. Yeah.
damn.
Yeah.
You better than me. I'm not getting in the ocean, man. I almost
Uh,
drowned twice. I almost drowned twice in the ocean. So I'm good I'm good with the ocean. I'm just gonna sit back
that's
and
my
and
that's my
enjoy.
wife. She don't
Yeah.
like it.
I don't like the ocean at all, man. 2 years ago, I almost drowned in Puerto Rico, actually. So after
Yeah.
that, and then when I was 11, I almost drowned in Long Island, but got caught in
Oh,
the rip tide, that rip current. And before I knew it,
look.
no joke, man. So I have a very fond appreciation for the ocean. I'll look at it from the sidelines.
Yeah.
What was your biggest takeaway from being at Honduras and leaving?
Um, really just realizing like the things I was going through.
Hmm.
That's, but it was always suppressed to myself. Never experienced it or expected anybody else to help me solve it. A lot of dialogue with God. Um,
Hmm.
so like I said, I'm a very spiritual, um, I have my struggles, as an adult, right? With my walk. But I'm very spiritually guided.
Hmm.
And I know the importance of it because um, getting sniped at twice and realizing that you're in the crosshairs of an individual, but yet the bullet doesn't hit you. It's a sobering experience for me, and realizing
Hmm.
that it's God's protection. Um, validating that He exists for me. It was a validation of existence. So,
I agree with you 100%, man. There's a story I have that I don't even talk about that much often. Is when I was in Iraq in Mosul, I was
mhm,
walking to the DFAC one day, and same things happened. I started taking a direct fire, and man, to this day, I'm just like, I don't even know how I made it out of there. And this same thing with flying certain missions, right? And I tell people it's God. It's the only reason, man.
mhm,
See, I mean, it just doesn't make sense, right?
yep.
So when you leave, did you know once you're done at Honduras, you were going to brag?
Yeah, I did. So I got the orders and everything, and it was said to a medical unit. I assumed it was still going to be an airborne unit. Come
Hmm.
to realize that there's multiple units there, right? Because when I was a steward, I knew there was a lot of units there that weren't part of the combat MOS and stuff like that. I didn't really know. I was still fresh into the basic.
Hmm.
But once you start realizing the structure of how the army goes, so I was like, okay. And I still had an interest in, jumping this before seeing those guys, like the previous story. And I get there, get on the Coscom side, and if anybody knows that brag, Coscom sides, they're not jumpers, they're legs.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I get to a medical unit. It's a forward surgical team. So that's what they call them.
Damn, you were part of that forward surgical medical
Yep.
team.
Yep. Yep. Did not deploy with them. We were scheduled. My unit that I actually went into were scheduled to, but in Honduras, I had torn my labrum,
Mm.
and it was bothering me quite a bit. And so I had the surgery done, and so they moved me to the sister platoon, a sister company. I'm sorry, because it was a company that was getting ready to deploy,
Hmm.
and so I missed it.
This is where it brag. This is where you start beginning to look into the flight medic thing, right?
Correct. Yep. I've
So
had two options.
how did that process turn out for you? And I know you're
Easy.
talking about SF as well.
Yeah, easy. So like I said, I had the interest in both, right? So obviously the combat MOS is medical SEAL training. You get that in the SF community. The thing that I became quickly not so interested in, it was the jumping portion, right?
Hmm.
So I was like, I could easily use my career here. Um, and so flight medic was in the back of my head as well because I came from Honduras, and at the time they were really struggling with flight medics, and so the acceptance rate was just high. Do my physical, get accepted into the program. They're ready to go to Brucker to get my training and stuff like that. So yeah.
When you say they're struggling with flight medics, were they struggling to keep them just because the amount of, lack of better terms, the amount of
I
shit
don't
that
know.
they're exposed to, or
I'm pretty sure it might be something like that. Because I mean, you think about it, you're in a platoon with 30 something guys, right? If you're like six, I don't want to ruin his story because I know kind of know a little bit about it, but you can experience a very different experience than I can, than I'd experienced, right?
mm-hmm,
Um, but for me, like taking like one casualty from my platoon, but a couple, of civilians, um, versus a flight medic, every mission is like that. It's
mm-hmm,
like sixes. And you're picking up every mission for Cat Alpha. Cat Alpha is the most critical that you can pick up. So um I'm sure it's that. I'm sure there's, I'm not trying to keep people in because they're experiencing a burnout.
yeah,
So I don't know for sure. I can't say for certain what Big Army was, why they wanted so much of a push for flight medics, but it happened to coincide during the time that I was putting in my pocket. I got accepted. So
how'd you feel getting accepted?
excited.
You were
I got to
excited?
do a little, yeah, I got to do a little thing when I was in Honduras, like I said,
Yeah,
I really regret not doing it earlier. Um, it's, I know it's God's way. I know I've God led me in a certain direction, and actually I know why, because that's where I met my wife at Breck. I
mm.
was like, wow, how could I job Blake really quick?
No.
But no, it's if I would have gone to being a flight medic, I would not have met her because as I was leaving from my surgery, that company, she came into that company. And so all the friends that I had there, all the NCO friends that I had, and she got to know. And that's how we got to know because we didn't like each other at first. I mean, when I first saw her, I was like, damn, she's cute. And but we didn't like each other. The
Mhm.
personalities weren't, the thing. So but yeah, so knowing knowing what I know now, that's the reason why. But yeah, it's
What's the name of the badge that medics get? I don't want to butcher it.
the combat medic badge. Yes, I
Yeah.
did earn that in my first deployment.
Okay, I just
That's
want
when I
to,
earned it. Yeah.
yeah, because you definitely earned that, man. That's a very prestigious badge to get because you literally earned that one. So
Uh,
you,
it's it's a badge that if you talk to everyone who earned it and earned it in a way that was difficult, because especially for the platoon medics, you don't want your dues to get hurt.
hmm
Period. So like I said, I'm a very emotional individual. I'm very attached to somebody when I get to know and and stuff. And so, but there's dudes out there like six, and there's several out there. Can't think of all of them, but that have earned it in a very difficult way, where they've either lost somebody that they knew, became friends with, or they've seen him suffer.
hmm
So yeah,
I don't
because
think I've met one flight medic or combat medic that had an easy stint in the army. Like all you guys that I meet, I hear your stories. I'm like, damn, this is why I created Heroes Have Wings because man, I want to be in the company of heroes. You guys are some stellar
pilots
human
too.
beings, man. Yeah.
You pilots too. I'm telling you, like we would not be able to get to the ground without you guys. And the courage you guys portray, going into an area hot LZ, you're getting shot at. Like and you guys make that decision to go in there, right? And yeah, everybody else in the crew does too. But you guys are piloting the aircraft, and you guys get us into where we need to be. So you
Yeah, I
guys
used to
too.
tell all the medics in the in the crew chiefs, but hey, don't worry, I'm just as scared as your ass.
Yeah. You
Don't
can't. You can't.
worry.
You can't be. You cannot be scared to be put
Like,
in that situation to a certain extent. So at least from my experience. So
man, there are so many nights, especially at night when you get those 2 o'clock in the morning calls and you're asleep and just everything is going 1,000 miles per minute. I'm taking them PCLs going to fly, and I'm just sitting here thinking, what am I getting myself into? Like,
yeah.
what am I doing? I want to go back to
That's my
sleep.
profession. Yeah. So why I choose this profession. Yeah.
Correct. So they send you down. Your wife, she was a combat medic too, just real quickly.
Yeah, she was in so her story's a little interesting too. So she was in the guard. So she had three MOSs there, two MOSs there, I'm sorry. And then she went active and then she became a medic. She had one deployment as a medic. She wasn't, so a combat medic with an infantry or a combat unit, she wasn't a part of, but she was a part of like a medical, for medicals team and stuff like that. So,
Hmm.
but yeah. And the unit, the FSC that we were a part of, sorry, that that's where we met. So she had come from El Paso in a previous deployment.
Okay. So you go down to Rucker. How
Mm.
was it going through flight medic school? Because
Mm.
you've been through the regular medic school. Now you're doing the flight medic portion.
Yeah.
How was that?
I struggle just the same as AIT. I distinctly remember their first sergeant eating or chewing out my ass for failing a couple of the practices that they had, like terribly failing. But I needed it. It was a rough chewing. Like this is like um I had really bad chewing. Like this is I've never had a chewing like that before, not even through my instructors at AIT or basic training. Um just almost like it was like that's hatred in it, right? Like there's a difference between chewed out and then chewing out with like a hatred. I felt that.
Hmm.
But I needed it, right? I needed it to kick my butt into gear and really get down to study. But it's also where I learned how to study for me.
Mm.
So repetitive writing and read for me is a way that I can study. So like I said, that's why I needed it because it really kicked me into gear. And that was the first couple of weeks, but by then, if you ask any medic that's gone through that pipeline, the old pipeline, it's just shooting at you like left and right, like things like you either or you have to read or you don't know. So yeah, it was hard. Everybody else got to go out play. They were lucky enough that they can retain the information and stuff. Some spent the time in the pool. Some went out to go to a club at night or stuff like that, and they come in and they'll do awesome. But me, I was stuck in the conference room in the hotel, writing on a whiteboard, filling up that entire whiteboard, just of
Damn.
different medications, procedures, body parts, things I had to learn, whatever it was that I had to learn in flight medic course. So yeah, but I passed. I did really good, but I needed that ass chewing.
Yeah, sometimes it's that pivotal moment in life that hits that switch in our brain, or just
Mhm.
I remember dealing with it too in flight school. Had one of those, I can't remember his name, but one of these, this guy was an asshole. He was
Mhm.
in our land nav portion of flight school. From the time you get in that front seat to the time you landed, this dude just constantly yelled at us, yelled
Yeah.
at us, yelled at us. I'll never forget the day I finally said something, man. He's yelling. I key the mic and I look at him. I said, "Hey, you need to relax." I'll never forget. He said, "I need to relax." I did. He got irate at that time. I'm just sitting there laughing in front of the cockpit.
Yeah.
And that was the end of our session. He's like, "Our session is over." I was like, "All right, cool, man." I'm already thinking in the back of my head, I'm a warrant officer. I'm not. I'm getting
Yeah.
through flight school. I don't care.
Yeah.
But it was just that personality conflict,
Oh
and
yeah.
you know how it is in the army, man. You always got
Mhm.
those people you bump heads with. You
Yeah.
just got to learn how to coexist with them and keep it moving
Correct.
afterwards.
Correct. And especially when it comes into your leadership stuff, and like we have leaders that way, right? They can be as toxic as they can get, but you have to learn to work with it.
Hmm.
That's why I was like, it's a kind of a political thing in that aspect, because you can't change your leadership um, right away. You have to adapt to them, and you have to learn that you have to adapt to them if you want to be successful.
Correct.
Um, so, but yeah, it was needed. Like I said, it was very needed to get that ass chewing. So,
So you get done with flight medic school.
mhm.
How long have you been in the army so far?
I don't know. Let's see, that's 2010. No, 11. Came in 2006. So we're almost looking almost about 5 years.
5 years, E5. You're probably mid to late 20s so far.
Yep.
One combat deployment. Still not married.
No.
After flight medic school, did they send you back to Bragg or did you go somewhere else?
Yeah, briefly, just to clear, just to get cleared out of there. And then I already had orders once I graduated the flight medic course to go to Campbell.
How did you feel going from 82nd to 101st? Because that's, I joke around a lot and I tell everybody I'm a 101st guy through and through. And
Hmm.
I spent my whole
So,
Army aviation career there. So I love and bleed for the 101st. And you know
yep.
how we always had that, we got that playful rivalry with the
Hmm.
82nd. So how did
Yeah.
it feel going from the 82nd to 101st and living both spectrums?
Um, I enjoyed 101st. Um, by that time, I already had read the book Band of Brothers, um, and of course watched the movie or the TV series. Um, so I felt they had a more of a history, right? Even in, I'm sure the 82nd has a lot of history, but there's really not a video or a book that really kind of depicts that in that I've come across.
Hmm.
So 82nd guys, they were also very, to me, I felt like very arrogant individuals. Maybe because they consider me a leg and they didn't like legs, right?
Hmm.
Um, but also just, like I said, just a very kind of an arrogant approach of everybody who I interacted with. And when I got to the 101st, it was different, very different. To this day, it is the most professional unit that I've ever been a part of. That's from my perspective, and that's even more so than Third ID, and Third ID was right there next to it. Um, but the sheer professionalism I got from the chain of command down to the squad leaders or the platoon sergeants that I had from them, it was very professional. It's very structured, and I thrived in structure. I really do.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
I think a lot of us in the military thrive in structure. I think that's why we go there. We're looking for that structure, that discipline, right? That acceptance of being a part of a team. And I agree with you. I don't think I experienced anything like 101st. That's why I made sure I stayed majority of my career
Yeah.
at Fort Campbell because it's like you said, when you get there, it's just different, and you can't
Yeah.
really explain it unless you go there and you're a part of the division and you see how it operates.
Yeah.
And and I get it. We're in an aviation brigade, so our life is a little bit
Yeah.
different from other people. So I get that aspect. I want to touch back. With you leaving Bragg, how did you and your wife get back together?
Yeah, so the Army has that the couple program where if they'll try to get you stationed at the same duty station and things of that nature. But the Campbell one was simply because we were married only a few months. I already had my orders by then. We were married a few months before I moved and
So
stuff.
you guys were married in Bragg.
Yeah, so when we left, yeah. So I
Okay.
was married, but it was like that transitioning point and stuff. So I went to Campbell. Oh, no, correction. We weren't married. We were dating because we
Hmm.
were dating throughout the first deployment. At Campbell, I came back and got married
Okay.
after my deployment. There we go. So yeah. So but we were just dating, so obviously the army doesn't do anything for that. But when we got to Campbell and she had orders to follow up to go to Germany, I got Germany orders, but we didn't get stationed in the same place. And we weren't allowed to go into a middle point, even though we could and live in the community, so we can go to our duty stations or bases.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Nice. So let's go back to Fort Campbell. You show up. Did you know immediately that you were going to go to the 101st Combat Aviation Brigade, or did you find out at reception? How did that whole process
Mm.
go?
No, I knew. By that time, I was pretty good at deciphering the orders and understanding them. Also, utilizing a few people that I had in contact with there at the 80s, I'm sorry, at the 101st, Kent Kipman. I kept really in contact with him throughout my military career from Honduras because he was stationed down there as well.
Hmm.
And so, I got to know. It was like there was only, I think, two places you could go to for a flight medic. I don't remember what the other unit is called, but then it was 101st. But like I said, reading the orders, you got to know really quickly where you were going. So I knew that I was going to go to the actual 101st, the 6th Battalion. So
And what year was this? 2011 or 2010?
12,
12,
12.
2012?
Yeah, because and then we had a deployment. I was there for a couple of weeks
Yeah.
and just enough to get it in process, get my gear issued, and then out the door because you guys already were down range.
How did you feel showing up to 101st? You got your shit, and then you're off to Afghanistan as a
Just
flight
another day.
medic.
Just another day. Like I said, very resilient. I'm gonna probably keep referencing that a lot. Is that very resilient, and things just come as it goes. I if I can control it, I'll do it. Right. I'll change the
Mhm.
aspect of it or go with it if I can control it. If I can't control it, if I can't control the situation, there's nothing in my power that I can do to change it. Okay, let's see where this does. Right.
Yeah.
So,
So you didn't get to go to paramedic school
mm-mm,
before Iraq, Afghanistan, correct?
no.
So you show up to Afghanistan, you get to Bagram. What was your initial thoughts, and what platoon were you assigned to?
I was kind of given this platoon, but I did spend a couple of I think about a month and some change with the headquarters.
Hmm.
I did the night stuff until they kind of got a couple of the uh, NCOs to help me progress. And then, like I said, I went down to Cat Cumans, down to Shank.
How are you feeling as a flight medic with the flying
Under,
portion and
oh, so at first I was very apprehensive. I thought that I had control of the aircraft to the point that I can kill everybody on there, right?
Mhm, mhm,
Because as you're progressing, you're like, okay, you have to make the calls and things of that nature. And so in my mind, I was like, man, if I make a bad call, I can crash everybody. But not realizing, one, the pilot ain't going to do it if it's
mhm.
in a dangerous situation, right? And then two, the person who's progressing you is not going to allow that call to be made, right? So very apprehensive. Felt like I had the ability to kill somebody. That's how I felt. But then as the progression kind of went through and stuff like that, realized and then talking to the pilots, being very nice to me and stuff, making me realize that and again,
Mhm.
it became pretty easy for the progression. You just got to go through the numbers. Um, and then being the flight medic portion, it was just trying to learn because you had Sergeant Francis, you had uh, McElhan, not I'm sorry, and you have several of the other medics there, right? That would help you out. Um, and just taking all that information because at that time I didn't know these guys went to paramedic course, but I knew that
Mhm.
they knew a lot, way more than I did, way more than I did. So a lot of it just spent learning, a lot of it, pulling missions when I could, and that's it. So
How was it getting down to Shashank with Captain Cuteman in first platoon?
yeah, there's a saying that they had down there. I'm sure you know it.
Yeah.
So, it was fun, but I enjoyed. Like I said, I trusted Captain Kima because I knew him from previous, right? Even though I didn't fly with him down in Honduras, the aura that he portrays, even to this day,
Mhm.
is a leader aura, point blank. I would follow this dude. If he wanted to go take hell, I would follow him to go take hell with him, right? He is one of the few leaders that's a commissioned officer that I will trust more. And it's just the aura that he betrays. He's got that natural ability to, inspire people to go with him.
No, I,
I
I agree
trusted
with
him.
you 100%. Yeah.
And
He-
but
Man,
I trusted him. And then getting to low, and the rest of the crew, the rest of the other guys, you just slowly gotta trust them. So
yeah. I'm not sure if you saw Johnny's episode with him and I. And I told him, I said, man, you need to be a CEO in a big company somewhere because he does have that aura. Wherever he goes, he could get people to buy into his vision and
correct.
follow, and he could lead, man. So
Yeah.
he
And he
has
doesn't
that.
take advantage of it, like in a bad way. Like he does it in a way that inspires you to do better.
Yep. And that you don't meet that. You don't meet people like that often. But when
Oh,
you do, the crazy thing is, First Platoon had him and Stevenson, and both of them were
yeah.
the same way.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this that first platoon, I never seen anything like it, man. That was a stellar platoon, and I wasn't even a
Yeah.
part of it. But man, just sitting back on the outside looking in, I
Yeah.
think I think we all wanted to be a part of first platoon with them two guys taking the
Yeah.
helm and running that.
I
When
did
you,
it too as a commander and a first sergeant.
yeah,
That would have been an awesome sight. But yeah,
yeah.
no, it's yeah, you hit it really on the nail. That platoon was just blowing with just amazing. And I'm glad I was a part of it. So
When you got down to shank, did they accept you immediately?
no, I mean they were polite, right? But
Yeah.
I was I was the dude that deployed and only got a few months in with them, right? And like they were already down there, established, set up. They had experienced a lot of things, you know. They had experienced mortar strikes, countless mortar strikes. I mean, I did too, but they had it from day one, pretty much. They had a huge ID that went off, and they got to build up even before they deployed, right? So they got that cohesion and stuff like that. So I was the outsider to a certain extent. Like I said, they weren't mean by no means. But you could feel it, right? You could feel that sense of not belonging right away. So, but they, yeah, oh, I believe they opened up and everything. You know, by the time we were done, we were good. It's just
What did you do to blend in and get inside the team?
I just acted normal. I did ask questions when I needed to ask questions, right? I didn't act like I wanted to, like I knew everything because I didn't. I knew that when I went to Rucker, that was my awakening moment as a medic where I didn't know what I didn't know, right? I was felt really good as a line medic, and I knew that stuff very well. But there's more to it than that, right? You can the initial treatment and keeping the patient is different from continuous care afterwards,
Mm.
right? Or taking that responsibility from the previous medic, right? So for me, it was just asking the questions that I didn't know. And if it felt that I was like it was a dumb question, I still asked it, you know? And I still got told off a bit. And there's some rough NCOs down there. But um, yeah, it's just I didn't try to portray somebody that knew everything. Because
Mm.
from a very young age, I learned that. There was another NCO in my going back to Stewart that he didn't know a whole lot. We had a medic that was a paramedic in the civilian side that went to the art that was one of our new medics that came in shortly after I did. It was one of the influx ones. So he knew way more, way more. But that other NCO refused to acknowledge that.
Mm.
And you know, so I learned from that experience to know that I don't know everything, especially when I talked to Sergeant Francis when I was up at the base on the base of the headquarters.
Mm.
Um, and he would tell me, he would quiz me. And I'm like, so yeah, just not just betraying somebody that's willing to be there, right? To learn, was I think the way possibly that I became, you know, integrated into the platoon. So
What was your biggest difference that you noticed between Iraq and Afghanistan?
not a lot. I mean, they have the mountains of physical topology and things of that nature, that is very different, but um it was just another deployment for me.
Mm.
Um I had a job to do. I wanted to do it. I wanted to do the best I could at it, because I knew those guys down there, right? They got hurt, whether they're in a infantry platoon, which I am more partial to, because
Mm-hmm.
that's where I was initially my first unit. But then you also had the engineers, right? They go on route clearances, their vehicles get blown up. You have the convoy guys, you know, going stuff like that. So yeah, just all those roles that they did, right? So it
Was
just
this your
changed.
last deployment?
No, I had one more after that.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah,
What was your
not
most
three.
memorable what was your most memorable moment in this 2012-13 deployment?
Would have to be the rockets. I mean, there's a few, but the rockets constantly getting rocketed. You know, not knowing where when if the time comes for you and stuff. So, the rockets were one of those interesting moments for me.
Mm-hmm. What about mission wise?
Um, would have to be the 16 cat alpha. Yeah,
Damn, in
there's
one
a
day?
close to yeah, it was close to the end. Because shortly after that, we went back. Well, some of their guys went up to the headquarters, started getting shipped down. The guys that were more seasoned could train up the incoming guys, you know, to get them um, up and running with the new routes and things of that nature, or anything that need to, you know, the left seat, right seats. So,
Yeah. So you guys
yeah,
had 16 cat alphas in one day.
that's the mission that it dropped. Yeah, but we had two aircrafts come from headquarters, and then we did it.
Damn.
So
How long did it take you
took
guys to do that? I don't remember that.
we took four. So the my aircraft took four patients, and we got two laying down, and the things, and then we got a guys in the thing. So for me, it felt like ever. It felt like forever because that was the most patients I had at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I understood we were going to get all 16 at first, and then started seeing the other helicopters coming in and stuff, and I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm good. So I think that's
But-
the reason why it became so memorable as far as the missions there goes, because it's in my mind thinking, picking up all these patients, and how to go about, and even just putting them in the aircraft, not all 16 at once, obviously. I
Mhm.
understood that the chase would be also taking some and stuff like that. But, when you expect that you have just two birds coming in, you're going to be taking a lot more than just the four that you had.
Mhm. What was your biggest takeaway from that deployment? It's your first one as a flight medic. You're
I had to learn. I had to keep learning. Um, that was my biggest takeaway is really digging into the studies because I didn't have that paramedic course.
mm,
I was a kind of an OJT individual, like
mm,
learning on the job. Yeah, did I have some medical training in Rucker? Yes, but nowhere near these dudes that had paramedic had, right? Because
yeah.
you're looking at now the new pipeline, if it's still the same before I got out, was over 7 months of training in addition to your actual flying. So medical portion. So, going from a Rucker where you had 1 month of medical training to the new guys having over 7 months. That's a lot of
That's
knowledge that
a
I don't have.
that's that paramedic school now that they go to,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Yeah. I'm glad the Army did that just to set you guys
Yeah.
up for success, man,
Yeah.
because I think they realized the huge gap. Like, man, these guys really don't know as much as they need to know, and they're dealing with pretty much critical care in the back of that aircraft, man. And
Correct.
that's a
Yeah.
whole nother level of medicine right there.
Yeah. Yeah. I never had a patient that I had to transfer from one to that critical care when I was down there in either deployments, um, as a flight medic, but it is just more. That is a lot of stuff dealing with, just the airway or keeping them under, managing that pain, so that they stay under.
Hmm.
Um, it's hats off to the guys that actually did it, because
Damn.
it's a lot.
Yeah,
And I
it's
was
a
I was
lot.
starting to learn that stuff, and that's why I'm saying like I biggest takeaway from that is I had to learn more. I
Hmm.
had to understand and keep our education going. Because when you think you have all of the information you can possibly get, it evolves too.
Hmm.
So it changes, So
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. It's forever changing, man. You gotta stay ahead of that as well. When you
yeah.
get back from Fort Campbell, how is your mental health holding up now?
Easier. And I missed it on the Bragg situation. So it all came to pretty much head at Bragg. Um, and it was I was struggling mentally going into work every day because it was a unit also that was very incestuous. A lot of leadership toxicity, a lot of leadership in commingling with your privates, their subordinates, and things of that nature. And I grew up in a very structured army lifestyle. Like you don't mess with the person that's above or the person below type of on you. So very incestuous in that aspect. So mentally, I struggled a lot. And there was a reason why I also wanted to get out of there and flight medic course. That was like another push, an
Mm.
extra push and stuff. So, but in that time frame, though, I met a behavioral health specialist. And I credit a lot of his willingness to see those things that were going on and confront me with it
Mhm.
to being able to be you know, taken care of mentally. And at first, he recommended the route of, going through psychologists, the chaplain, and things of that nature, using the army stuff. Every person I went to felt to me not invested into me as a person.
Mhm.
So I struggled a lot with that. And then I already, come back, after the session, I let him know, like, it's just not for me, right? It's just, they're not there, to try to help me out and things of that nature and stuff. And he's like, well, yeah, I'm going to say this. He's like, if you talk to people and you continue to talk to them about your situation, they may not understand it, especially if they're civilians, they won't understand your experience. But the more you talk about it, the more easier it becomes to you're letting it go and not festering inside. And so I was like, okay. So I opened up first with my family, my twin sister. Um, my little sister, my brother. He was, I had a good conversations with him, but he was already at this point deployed so many times it's sometimes harder to even get him. He was in psyop. So half the time I didn't know where he would go until he got back. So, and then my folks. And if people would ask, I would like mention it and talk about it a little bit, but not go into depth as I did with my family and stuff. So by this time already, my second deployment, I already had, or yeah, my second deployment, I already had a better um situation like that.
Hmm.
So when I would deal with things of that nature, I had an out. Also had a lot of spiritual walk with God. So that's how I dealt with it.
Nice. I think it's very important, like you said, to build that. You got to build a group of good people around you,
Hmm.
and then you have to let people know what's going on.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of people want to help, right? But me and Mike talked about this yesterday. I think it's unfair for us to try to dump everything on our friends and family members and that use the resources we have now, right? There's a buttload of resources now. And
Yep.
one number I talk about all the time is 988. Dial that number. There are people there to help you out, professionals. They will talk you
Hmm.
off the edge. They will get you the help you need. So that's one of the biggest things I want everyone to understand, that there are people out there willing to help. You
Yeah.
may, you,
Absolutely. I mean, you should take advantage of that because like you said it's going to help you out. For me, it didn't work. The people who I came in contact with, it didn't work out for me.
yeah.
But my spiritual walk, realizing suicide for me was never an option
Mm-hmm.
because of my spiritual walk. And things of that nature. I was like, didn't matter how hard it would get. There's always that I can reach up and grab, you know, um, my Savior's hand, and He was, helping me out. My family, though, it was just having a conversation, and I think you're right on the fact, it's unfair for them to get all that information. Uh, but for me, it helped out. I
Yeah.
don't, I don't, I don't think they have any resentment for it. At least I hope they're not. They haven't expressed it. So,
No, I think you did the right thing by reaching out to your family. I mean,
you know,
that statement I made is more for the family, right? So if you have somebody coming to you, understand that you don't have to take it all on. Help them get the
it's
resources they
true.
need to get
Mhm.
the help they need, right?
Yeah,
Because sometimes we don't. It's a fine line, right? We don't want to push the people away that we love because we're trying to get help and inundate them and overwhelm them with it, right?
yeah,
So just making them aware that, hey, there are programs out here. There are the numbers that you can call to help that loved one out. So just be mindful of it.
yeah.
When you get back from Fort Campbell, what happens next?
So right away, get ordered again. Get to go somewhere else, and this time it was Germany. So
Hmm.
yeah, for I think the later part of my military career since Campbell, I was always short, short. Bam, bam, bam. Like I'll get back, boom, move to another duty station. Get back, move to another duty station. And
How long were
so,
you at Campbell for?
uh, goodness gracious, I don't know. Dates for me are really hard to remember. Um,
2 or 3
but it
years?
was no, because well, yeah, 2 years, I'll say. Not three. It wasn't three.
Yeah, that's fast, man. 2 years isn't a long time at all.
No, but I always took the short terms contracts, right?
Mm,
And then I did that because I didn't want, I mean, the money was great when I would get my bonuses for it, right? But I wanted somewhere else different. I always wanted to experience new places just in general. Didn't matter if it was a new place in the States, or it was overseas, things of that nature. So I always try to sign for the least amount of time. So that way, when my contract ends about that time, it's ready to go to another duty station. And it's enough
mm.
time that the military will be like, okay, we can move you. Right.
You leave Fort Campbell. Where do you go
Mhm.
next?
I'm going to Germany. As soon as I get there too, it's 2 weeks of in processing to and getting out the door. Luckily I caught the entire deployment for that one. But it was just like boom, 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 as soon as I got there. So,
Now, when you went to Germany, did you take your wife with you?
so my wife already had orders to go there, and stuff. And then by this time, the army already knew we were married. But for some reason, it just didn't work for us. As far as getting stationed at the same duty station and stuff like that. But it was about an hour and a half away from me.
How did you guys manage that?
So FaceTime. Um, what was it? Skype as well. it was making a priority that it was we were there for each other, right? And the understanding that we were both in the military, we were both asked to do certain things that we chose to do, right? So just getting down and doing it. So it was just like as a struggle. I mean, you want to be there with your significant other. I'm sure everybody wants that, especially for your first portion of your marriages and stuff, the first few couple of years. But I think it also drew us closer because we've got to have those conversations. We had conversations, everything from our spiritual walk to our how we're raising our kids, if we're going to have any kids.
Hmm.
Because at first we weren't planning to. We knew what that entailed, especially being both dual military. Dropping off the kids before 5 o'clock, picking them up after 5 o'clock, right? Then as leadership progresses, right? She was progressing obviously quicker than me, because I was still five by then. But you know, as leadership goes, you take more responsibilities, you accept more, things that come down the pipeline that keeps you away from the house. So we made a decision not to have kids at that time. So, but yeah, just having conversations, right? So,
So where were you stationed in Germany?
Ansbach,
Ansbach.
Kaderbach.
So you were there for 2 weeks. They ship you off to another deployment. Where do you go this time?
Mhm. Uh, Indad, I believe it was called, if I remember correctly.
And that's
Uh,
that's in Kandahar, correct? In Afghanistan.
yeah, the seminary over there.
And what year was this?
14, 2014.
And you were
So
there
just about
for
15, six
9 months,
months.
6 months.
9 months, 9 months, 6 months. One of them. See if I
So,
can.
so how was this
It was a
opportunity?
full. Uh, it was slowing down by the time. Like really slowing down. There was days I would get on and nothing happens.
Hmm.
So, um, the other guys did most of the pickups. They, I guess, fortunate or unfortunate, however you can say it, had most of the pickups of the patients and things of that nature. There we were co-located with a hospital, an Air Force hospital, I guess. It was a little forward operation, and that's where all the patients went to. Continue my education there. That's pretty much what I did. A lot of learning, more of the critical side, how to keep a patient more alive and things of that nature. Because again, by this time, I still haven't gone to the paramedic course, and I had never went to it.
Hmm.
So all the things that I had to learn that the paramedics learned, or critical care situations, I had to learn from the nurses that were attached to us, right? And they had a lot of the knowledge. Um, this unit it was okay, but it was not first.
Hmm.
Leadership, it was okay, but it wasn't 101st.
Were you guys assigned anybody, or were you just an entity on its own when you got to
We're an
Afghanistan?
entity on its own. We dealt with so. Again, they were strewed out. Obviously, the entire company. So the platoon that I was a part of was in Shindand. Then there was other ones throughout, different locations. They were more busier than we were. Um, they were still seeing more patients, picking up more patients than we were.
Hmm.
So,
What was your most memorable moment about that deployment?
mm, honestly, for just knowing what type of leadership I wanted to create in my next unit. Like I said, I
Hmm.
got from 101st, got to feel what I believe was the most excellent type of leadership that I got to experience to one that was, like I said, they weren't bad individuals or toxic. It's just it didn't go out of their way to foster a good atmosphere
Hmm.
or an atmosphere that you would enjoy. So I got to learn that part. Patience wise, like I said, there's wasn't that busy for me. I didn't get that money. So,
So when you leave that deployment, you go back to Germany. How long are you in Germany for?
quite a bit, but about that time they started to disband the unit. They wanted to bring it down to a detachment, if I'm not mistaken. Um, So I got to do a lot of the recreation of SOPs to that detachment type of mentality. Also got to learn the equipment that needed to be organized to do that, to break it down. So yeah,
How was your time overall in Germany?
it was fun. I enjoyed it. Of course, I got to experience also a different culture, and I explored every chance I got to different places. Got to, go to different festivals, the typical things that you get to do and enjoy while you're in Germany if you take that advantage. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Did you do any traveling?
yeah, we did. We did. My wife and I. That's where we spent most of that time and just being able to be physically there, present with each other. So
Yeah, that's good, man. When you wrap it up in Germany, where do you head next?
I've read on to HUD. So here in Texas.
Now, when you got to Hood, were you still at E5?
No, I was a staff sergeant by that time. So I had gotten to be promoted to staff sergeant while I was in Germany. And yeah,
At what point did you realize you were going to get out the army, not retire?
oof, that'll be a little bit later. So I was here. I was here in Texas, and um, uh, so I got here. I already got offset. So when I left Germany, I already had taken my I went down, so I wasn't able to fly no. And by this time, my back was really bothering me. Like I wasn't able to pick up a patient on the battlefield or pick up a patient, period.
Mm,
So I became a liability in that aspect. And I wanted to continue to fly, obviously. I wanted to continue to do all that fun stuff that I perceived was, fun. Um, but I knew that my body couldn't take it. And I've also having issues since Campbell, when we were doing our rotation down in Louisiana, that I was started noticing that. And but it got to the point where it was a struggle. And like I said, if you become I know if you become a liability on the battlefield, it's not good because now they have to take care of the medic, and that's the last thing I want. I want somebody to do is take care of me.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I talked to Branch. They told me, like, hey, get down, get better, see if you can get better. We'll put you at a unit that's not as, stringent. Well, come to find out, they put me at a engineer company or engineer battalion. And I didn't pick up the patients nearly as much as I know you would, because at this time I was a staff sergeant, so I was in a leadership position. And how they structure it initially is that the companies have control of the medic. So you have a senior medic, then you have a specialist, and then you have a couple of Joes underneath you. And um, so I was there, and we're getting ready to deploy again. Oh, because I guess I took a liking to the first sergeant when I first got there. They had brought in a couple of the first sergeants to interview me and stuff. And so the one that was getting ready to deploy, well, he claimed dibs because he's getting ready to deploy.
Hmm.
So I was like, damn. But by this time, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go. I'm not gonna be able to. I'm not gonna pick up a patient because that's not my responsibility. So make sure that the guys that were underneath me had the knowledge, had the ability to be comfortable with, providing the medical coverage and stuff like that. So um, I was okay with the possible next deployment, which would have been my fourth one. And but at that time, the battalion's senior medic fails certain things. One, his personality he was checked out. He was a 20 something year, um, being in the military. Um, and so there's a lot of things that he was dropping the ball on. And
Hmm.
so me being the senior afterwards, they told him, hey, just kind of sit down on the sidelines. We're not completely like firing you, but at the same time, we're not giving you that responsibility. So I go from the company back up to the battalion. I become the senior medic. Um, and just the experiences I've dealt with leadership type, and also learning about the books, the SOPs, the equipment, and all that stuff that needed to be brought back up to, certification, you know, just started slowly doing that,
Hmm.
knocking it out and going from there. So,
So you went from company, they put you up in battalion, take over the senior medic's job.
mhm.
And when they made that change, that took you out of the deployment rotation.
Yes, it did.
So after that change happened. Now I'm assuming your wife is back in the States with you. Is that correct?
Yeah, so she actually leaves the army when we moved from Germany to here because we actually had our son. Um, we decided to have a son, and initially it was just going to be me getting out and being the stay-at-home parent to our son, and she would have stayed in. But of
Hmm.
course, motherhood hits my mom, and she falls in love with Leo, and she's like, I can't. I was like, that's fine. I'll stay in as long as I can, and we can go from there. Because at that time, I was still thinking I was going to stay in.
Hmm.
Med board process really never came across my plate. I knew that this could be a possibility, for people, right? But for me, it was just not something that came into existence or fruition until much later when I was in parenthood. So mama comes with me. She starts her own little thing for nursing and all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah.
So you're at Hood. At what point did the realization that your Army career is coming to an end? What happened?
So we go on a field exercise as a brigade. The headquarters, we set up tent and we went, and the headquarters has their assigned medics. They're the ones that set up the aid station. So it's a local, when casualties occur at the company level, they get transferred over to the battalion stabilizes it and calls it in and goes off. That's how it used to work. Nowadays it's probably helicopter right into the POI, right into where the point of injury is.
Hmm.
So you now have back past that. But we were at a field exercises. We had to set up all of our tents, all the equipment, that's an aid station just to practice. And I have a really bad episode in the field with my back. Um, and our doc was there, and the senior commission, the PA, he notices it and stuff, and so we really start hitting the ball of getting our treatments afterwards. So we get back from the field, start hitting the treatments. Make sure I'm going to physical therapy, getting chiropractor, getting acupuncture, getting dry needles, getting all the treatments that I needed to do in order to see if we can get it fixed on because he witnessed it.
Hmm.
And so, and no discredit to all the other ones that were kind of treating things, but when I guess they see it, they're like, okay, yes, this guy's not faking it, right? Because I think they have that in the back of their mind a lot of the times because you get a lot of sometimes people who fake it. So, um, then nothing worked, nothing. They gave me an option of doing um a steroid shots, which I declined because I never seen that work for anybody that had it
Correct.
done. So I was like, there's no point. And they're like, well, we can't do anything else past surgery. And then the PA said, hey, he sat down with me. He's like, I think you can qualify for a medical, for a med board. And I was like, okay. At this time, Mama was getting ready to graduate from her nursing, getting into the field. So again, it'll leave us with nobody at the house for our son. And since we had that conversation where I would take, I could take that role as a parent, um, we made that decision. So Mama and I sat down and she's like, I think it's just the best thing. So we filed for the med board process. Of course, it got accepted, and stuff. So, and then
How long was
transition
that
started.
process for you?
Man, felt quick, felt really quick. I think the longest I waited was just getting an answer from the med board. Once the
Hmm.
med board process kind of came in, the orders got cut. I went to all my appointments that I needed to go to, got the out processing process going as well. They were very streamlined here at HUD. I don't know about anybody anywhere else because I never processed out of there medically for anywhere else, but here at HUD was very processed, very things and stuff. So, but yeah, it was quick. I'd say within about 2 to 3 months after.
Wow, that was fast.
Yeah.
When you got out of the Army, what did you decide to do? You just
A lot of things, and I didn't settle on engineering, network engineering till later on. Initially, I wanted to do was go into nursing as well. But again, it came down to the didactics portion, the sitting down in the classroom, learning about the things. Even though I knew how the body worked, because I'm a very visual individual, I can if you show me or you teach me how certain things of the function of the body goes, I'm very good at it, and stuff. So if I learn that way, I'm good. But when I'm sitting down at the classroom and trying to, when it was actually anatomy, physiology that made me realize that I'm not cut for school to learn
Mm,
that way. Like I can tell you what the body parts do. I can tell you how they function, what to look for like different issues, things of that nature. But this teacher particularly wanted me to like get the right pronunciations done, the right spellings when it came to the things and stuff like that nature. Also, studying for it was very difficult, so I failed that class. And so I was like, all right, cool. Nursing is not quite for me then, I guess. And so moved on, took care of Leo, and and I decided to try to do something else. I forgot what it was. It only lasted for a couple of things. Same thing, the didactics portion was the killer part. Um, then I decided to do the network engineer. And somehow that's much easier. I am currently acing all my classes, and it's just somehow that's clicking more. I don't know
yeah.
if maybe it's the teachers teaching it differently. My ability to think things in a visual way that helps me get a good grade.
How was that transitioning? How was that transition from army to
Mm,
civilian life for you?
it was a struggle for me. Going from a point in my life where I am the subject matter expert, I'm dealing with a command sergeant major, I'm dealing with a battalion commander, company commanders, company first sergeants, and being, like I said, being that subject matter expert, and then going to a 4 or 5 year old was difficult for me because,
Mm,
and I had to learn to realize that it didn't matter my career in the military. Like the army keeps moving. We all know that. Even when we're in, we all know that. But going to the realization that my career had ended in something that I truly wanted to do forever. Since I was a little kid, that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to do it plus 20 years. Um, so there was a struggle with that. It took me probably about a good year to year and a half to really like, no, that's moved on. Time to focus off and move on
what are
to the role of a father.
what are some things you did to deal with that transition and that hard time? Because we all experienced it. I experienced it.
Mhm.
A lot of the guys and gals on the show experienced it. How did you deal with that transition and that hard time for a year and some change?
I just grinned through it. Um, there's just slowly grasping it. Like I said, it was hard. It took me over a year to kind of do it, but it's just repeatedly like and telling my brain like I'm done, I'm done, you're done, you're done. Yeah, you can't go back. I mean, your back is to the point where the only thing I can do left is surgery, but it's not a that's going to be on the table for a very long time because I got 2 kids, one of which is she's 4 years old. How am I
Hmm.
supposed to pick them up? So, being able to play with them, just simple things like that. So,
Yep.
just being repetitive in my head, like, it's done for you, it's done for you, it's done for you. I didn't do anything specifically that would help me, because I kind of became an isolationist. Um,
Mm.
I still contacted, of course, my friends, but I didn't get along, and I didn't get with people like in my social life. It's just me being a homebody. So, but yeah,
At what point did you realize, and how did you realize you wanted to do the network engineering thing?
um, I always had a fascination with computers. Even when I was in the military, I always would go to the computer guys and just kind of like pick their brains, see how they would network their things and things of that nature. So it was something that was secondary to me being in the military, being
Mm.
a medic. So I always had a fascination with computers. Like even to this day, I love building a computer. If somebody wants, me to help them bring all the pieces together or build a gaming PC, right? I love doing
Hmm.
that stuff, right? Um, and then networking is just because it incorporates computers with my hands on stuff that I like to do. I always like to keep my hands busy. Um, You have your cybersecurity guys that sit behind a desk. Yeah, they can move their fingers and type in stuff, but they sit behind a desk mostly, and figuring out a way to either defend or find vulnerabilities in the systems. But network engineer, just you have to, again, you have to get the cable from one point to the next. You have to plug it in. You have to go into the routers and configure the routers, configure the switches, configure this about the computer, things of that nature. So I enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah. How rewarding has it been being a stay-at-home dad?
It is the best.
Mm-hmm.
The best, but also the most difficult.
You're right. I'm
uh,
during the school year, I relate. I got my daughter most of the time during the week,
mhm.
and
Yeah,
I tell everyone, man, being a full-time dad now is probably the most rewarding thing I've probably done in my life, man.
yeah,
It's great. I don't mind it at all, man. It's just my best part of my day is dropping my daughter off at school, picking her up. I mean, I look
yeah,
forward to those things, and
yeah.
I mean, we're guys that spent a lot of time in the military. I would have never imagined me doing this, but I'm doing it now, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You don't think you're going to be doing this and stuff, but hey, been almost since 2018, and it's like I said, it is the most rewarding, the
Mhm,
most challenging um point of my life that I would not change for anything in the world. To see these kids um, grow up with their personalities of the best,
mhm,
the best. The only person that can understand it is a father that's there for a child.
mhm.
That can understand that feeling.
It's a great feeling, man.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate and blessed enough that I get to look at it in both ends because I do. My oldest son's 25, and now I got my
Mhm.
6 year old. And man, the way I raised the older ones, I was in the army, completely different place in my life. I was a butthole, very strict, stern. Now for the baby, I'm a ball of mush. I still, I keep the discipline and the structure in her life, but man, she gets pretty much what she wants. But I'm teaching her how to work for those things, right?
Correct.
We as fathers, we do have to instill that discipline, teach our children, get them ready for the real world because it's coming if we like it or not.
Oh yeah.
But
You're
I do
raising
agree.
you're raising adults. You're not
Yeah.
raising little kids. And so you have to be able to, like with my daughter, she has a tendency sometimes to, when she doesn't get what she wants, she's going to put those puppy eyes, right? She's
Hmm.
4 years old. And so, it hurts when it's like something that you truly want to give them. But when you realize like, hey, no, you're trying to gain the systems here and you
Hmm.
need to learn that life is not like that, right? So it's a balance of finding and when to instill that discipline, when to be like, okay, you're the fun parent and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. You done having kids?
Yes.
All right.
As much as I would like to have a couple more, but mama, she's like, I'm done. I'm like, okay. And that's my only option I have.
Yeah.
So if she says yes, then all right. And it's like I said, I'm old, I'm 43 years old, so I enjoy my sleep and yeah, so
Yeah, I get it, man. I
I'm
get it.
done.
What advice would you give young soldiers regarding their mental health?
Search. Search out for those conversations. Don't shy away because you think they won't understand. They won't. They won't. And it's not for them to understand. It's for you to be able to vocalize it, let it out, bring it to fruition. Because it used to be for me where I would break down,
Mhm,
and start to cry because I said I'm an emotional individual, and I lost a good friend over there. He was in a different platoon, and the only reason we got to, he was young too. He was 18 years old. But the reason we got to be good friends is that he was brought up in the same area that I was briefly brought up and where my grandparents lived in Escondido, California. So he got to know like all the good stuff. Like, hey, did you ever try this place? Oh yeah, yeah. Did you try this place? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's how we built that friendship.
mhm,
And he passed away over there. And it was a struggle. It was a real struggle. But like I said, for me, that conversation with people and bringing that out, yes, it brought a lot of pain and memory, but over time, it became a normal thing for me.
mhm,
Oh, fuck, fuck.
mhm.
What's the worst that's going to happen? They're not going to understand. You got to revisit it somehow,
Yep.
you know? And if you talk to somebody that's trained to navigate those emotions, even better, even better. Just talk.
Your friend that passed away, were you there when he passed away?
No, he was in a different platoon. He was in my sister platoon in Alpha Company. My good buddy was a medic for them. He ended up passing away to suicide.
Mm,
Be I think it's just at the point for him. Like I said,
yeah.
it was my sister platoons. That was a hard one. It was a hard one
Mm,
for the company, but for those two. And like I said, I don't know why. I think it's just well, I know why, and it's the spiritual walk, right? Is God's and stuff. But my sister platoon, and I don't know. I can't say that God is keeping one of the things bad things to happen to them, but it was a hard deployment for the entire company. Just they didn't get it.
mm,
That was my entire military career, pretty much. Um, is that I didn't get everything that everybody else got, right?
mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, he was in a different platoon. Um, but as a company, we all struggled.
Yeah. You
We're
know,
we're going,
I've learned, and I learned because same with me. I've been through a lot, but not as much as everyone else. And I've learned that it was never for me shying away from things or you shying
yeah,
away from things. It's just for some reason our number was never not called as often as others, or we weren't given that opportunity to, try those things. Or I don't, I sit around, I think about that as well. Like, man,
mm,
I've always aspired and I've always tried to do the hard things in my life. Why didn't I ever get the opportunity to do because I've done some hard things, but I want to do the extra hard things,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And have those crazy stories and I don't know, man. I don't know if I really don't know what it is either. I don't know if it's luck. I don't know if it's just timing in place,
yeah,
but it's something I try to come to grips with too, because, you see your
yeah,
counterparts and your friends going through certain things and you're wondering why, damn, why am I getting the opportunities? And it's just, especially in the medevac, man, it's the luck of the draw. And I hate to say luck, but it's just,
no, it's understandable.
it's the right time, right place. You just need all those conditions to align. And I don't,
Correct.
For some people, it happens all the time. For other people, it just never happens. You're like, damn, why not?
Yeah, yeah. That's something I still struggle with a lot. Is that the I felt capable enough to handle those situations, but it never came out.
Correct.
And I would have preferred to switch it out with even with that other medic that committed suicide. He was a good friend of mine.
Hmm.
For him to not experience those things, right?
Yeah.
So, because I felt like even then I was like he would be still here in some capacity, and some of the other guys too that struggle with certain things. Um, but yeah, it's never came up. That ticket, those tickets, just saying, never came up.
Yeah. What's the one thing you would change about your military career?
Being better at my NSOERs.
Mm.
I was horrible, and my progression in my military career reflects this. 11 and a half years, and I'm a staff sergeant, right? Where most people would probably already have been looked at for sergeant first class, right? I never took good care of my NCOERs.
Mm.
One, because I didn't know how to write them very well. Two is that I felt that they bragged a lot
Mm.
about me, right? And I never really liked that aspect um, about bragging or bringing attention to myself. I was very content with sitting back and just letting things kind of evolve for other people. So, and like I said, I was good at my job. I never liked being mediocre. And
Mm.
my very first deployment is when I realized that I cannot be content as to where I'm at.
Mm.
Right. So that's why I always push myself to be the best medic I could for myself. Not for me, not directly, but for bringing back everybody who my hands touched if I had the
Yeah.
opportunity to. So,
Where do you think that selflessness came from? You putting others before yourself?
My parents,
Hmm.
my parents, my walk with the Lord. Um, just dad always telling me if you do something, do it right the first time. Do it right the first time. Yeah, that's it.
I think a lot
Putting
of
it.
people need to hear this because I think a lot of people need to realize that putting yourself, putting others before yourself is a very noble thing.
Mm,
And you may not be rewarded now, but in the long term aspect of life, you will be rewarded. God will bless you for those things, man.
so,
And it's something that your parents taught you at a young age. I think parents
oh,
really, really need to understand, like we just talked about, you're getting your kids ready for adulthood.
mhm,
And remember, if you have a spoiled brat that's 5 to 11, they're gonna grow up and be a spoiled brat as an adult. So just keep that in mind. I think people really need to be intentional about those things and understand that the things you do at home really matter. And
yep.
it's good that your dad and your mom are teaching you these things at a young age, and they were
Oh yeah.
realizing it themselves. That's
Yep.
pretty.
Yep. And another thing too that came like when I lost my buddy is that realization like life's not guaranteed.
Mm,
And it doesn't matter. And that's one thing I always told my soldiers, like it doesn't matter if he is the biggest dick in the platoon. He still has somebody that loves him back home, and that's your responsibility to do everything you can to bring them home.
yep.
And that's the philosophy I always did. In whatever position I was in, is that I cannot drop the ball. So in order for that to happen, I have to stay current with everything. I have to accept other people's knowledge. Bazakas, if you ever get a chance to have an interview with him, Bazakas is an individual that inspired me, even though I was an E5 and he was a specialist. Very close in age, so I mean, we got along with each other, and we were both from California, Southern California. So that was another reason, but he was also a paramedic outside of the military.
Mm,
He had way more knowledge than I did. Could have been like that other NCO and just shut down and like, nah, I'm that subject matter expert because of the stripes that are on my chest. Um, but just, digging into the knowledge.
yeah.
So,
What's the happiest moment in your military career besides
mm,
marrying your wife? You can't say marrying your
ah,
wife or having your children. Those two things don't count. Those are assumed happiest moments of your life.
yeah, yeah. Oh, the experiences, good and bad. I know it sounds kind of funny, but they made me into the person that I am today, and that's why my wife fell in love with me. That's why I have the perspective in life that I do now. Um, Achievement wise, I did enjoy getting my air assault wings. I felt, and it also was good that several of the guys that were in the platoon did it with me as well. Right? You had Captain Cutman in there, you had a few of the other guys and stuff. So it was nice. Like it was a joint effort of completion that we went for me getting through it. And it was easy in a way. All right. The physical portion of the military life, I never got challenged to the point where I broke down. I was pretty well in shape aside from my back, that everything was pretty relatively easy. I never let my back be a crutch in the military. So my air assault wings were probably by far the most enjoyable thing that I got.
Nice. What key lessons or takeaways do you hope listeners will gain from your story?
Mm. Value life.
Mm,
Value life. It goes back to that statement where I said it doesn't matter where the person is the biggest dick. You don't have to be friends with them. You don't have to um, sing kumbaya with them or allow them to trample over you and things of that nature. But value life, value the fact that they're a human being, because we don't see that often in the world anymore. Um, Simply just look around when you drive, right? Aside from people being distracted from their phones, that first mentality of always, it's all about me.
hmm.
They're not valuing things. So value life. And then more aware of people's capability of doing evil.
Mm, that's deep.
That's the lesson I learned that first deployment with that kid. The capability of a person's doing evil to another person.
I think we all seen that, man. That's something that, it's the first time I've actually heard you brought it up on the show that the capacity of evil, man, in people's minds and hearts. I don't think people really even understand the gravity of the situation, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you just look around today, see what's going on here in this country alone, man, you could just see the pure evil in people, man, and it's
Yeah.
crazy. It is crazy. It's something that, it's something I struggle with on a lot myself because I live in this crazy world where I try to see the good in everybody, right?
Yeah.
But then I realize not everybody has good intentions.
Correct.
So I have to make sure that my situational awareness is on key. We do help all these things in combat, right?
Mhm.
And you made me realize that, man, evil is a real thing out there. There's a lot of goodness out there, right?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
But there is, man,
So,
when you see people's true evil, like
mhm.
I think that's something you'll never forget.
Yeah. Like, don't be naive to it.
Hmm.
And that's what I was my first deployment when I saw this kid rolled up in the back of our Bradley, looking at him like I was naive to the point. He had a extensive list of IDs being made under his hands and several deaths under his hands, and so value life and understand people's ability for evil.
Mm. What legacy do you want to leave behind for your friends and your family?
I think to show, first of all, that I tried my hardest to be a good person in God's eyes, being a good father and a good husband is the only legacy I want.
Two-part question. If you had to go back and tell younger Carlos something, what would it be?
Take care of your NCOs. I'm sorry, NCOERs. Obviously, I'm not going to list my accolades, but you saw them. Um,
Hmm.
I did my best in everything I could. I never stopped learning, but I could have had a better or more of an impact, I feel, for those soldiers if I would have taken my NCOERs a little bit seriously. I could have touched a little bit more people. Uh, Also would have been taken a little bit more seriously in certain situations. Being a senior medic at the battalion level as a staff sergeant, um, did take away some of that. So I had to find a way to relate to the senior leadership, whether it's the first sergeants, and telling them, like, hey, look, there's these new programs out at the Mystic that these medics can go to that helps them train up, or going through the paramedic course for these line medics. Like, that's the stuff that I was working on at the brigade level, is getting these medics to go to paramedic courses as a line medic, not a flat medic, a line medic, and allowing the first sergeants to understand that the importance of that knowledge that could be brought back to their company. Even if it's just one individual in her company that ended up going, which was a good thing that it was able to occur. Um, and thanks to the help also to the my command sergeant major, he was he was good. Um, and he allowed me to create those programs or implement those programs into the unit.
Hmm.
So, and just, having that credibility to bring to them and say, hey, look, how much more benefit this would be for you to just treat the next person that's injured, you know? So, and I took it a lot into consideration to understand their jobs too. Because I used a lot of their things, like say, hey, look, you guys have had this formula to to break down a tree, like to clear an LZ, right? For example, you had to have so much C4 to clear a tree per roundness of it. That calculation still exists from when it first was created. It still has to, still implement it. But as for the medics, you no longer can give 2 bore IVs or 2 liters of fluid to a patient. We've now come to realize through studies, through our experiences and through the war, is that that's not good. Like that's going to blow out clots that are established if a person has an amputation, and then you now have increased the their likelihood of dying. Now they're teaching these medics that are like, well, at the time, I'm out, so I'm probably there's new teachings out there. I'm very sure of it. But now that there's a teaching that it was like you only give them a certain amount to be able to get a certain response for them, and that's like, hey, do you have their pulse either at their neck or at the radial, things of that nature. And so I had to teach that or say that to the first sergeant in order to be able to create these or allow these medics for the company, because they weren't under my control. These medics I had to beg for them to move over, or and then move maybe one of my medics down to the line to temporarily, cover it down. So I was like, but I always make sure they emphasize like that their training had to get done.
Yeah. What's the one thing you want to teach your children, or the best advice you would give them?
mm, Learn from experience, other people's experience.
Mm,
Um, because you won't suffer as much. I got you. There's people that say that they learn better with their own personal experiences. I think to some extent that is true, but learning from other people's mistakes or experiences, not necessarily a mistake, right? Because you could do something right and do it right the first time, but learning from their experiences.
that's a good one,
Don't
man.
blow it off.
That's powerful. There's a saying out there, and I'm paraphrasing right now,
Mhm.
but people that can learn from other people's experience, mistakes, you know, great doings, those people are very intelligent, because you don't have to go through those experiences on your own to learn.
Correct.
So that's very, very profound. Three words that you would describe yourself.
Um, Loyal, compassionate, and resilient.
Why those three?
Resilience is always something I had, like I said, like all the experiences that I've gone through and been a part of. Um, Taking that mentality of if I can control it, I can control it. Let me change it. I can't control it. Don't worry about it. It's hard. I struggle with that right now with my son. I was teaching him that. Like, if you can't control it, there's no reason to it. But it's hard too because he's at that age where he's not understanding that. But yeah, compassionate is just something that I've always had since I was a little kid. Always looking out for my sisters. Like, where are you?
Mm.
Like, hey, always walking behind them, making sure that like they're okay. My son is the same way. Same way. And it's funny because I tell him the same thing my parents say. It's like, look, be a child. Don't be a parent. I'm the
Hmm.
parent. But he's the same way. I mean, I don't know where he learned it from because that's not something that he saw me do, right? Because he wasn't born then.
Remember that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, man. It's
So
an inherent DNA thing, man.
yeah. And then loyal. Just, I don't mind being there for people who need the help.
Yeah.
That's why I would change my profession from being a combat MOS to being a medic. You know, so
Hmm. What's the
I'm
future
I'm the
for you, man? What's the
future.
future look like?
Oh Lord, father, being a father. I can list all these things, like being an engineer and things of that nature and stuff, which I will be. But the part that's the most important is being a father, being a husband to my wife.
Yeah.
Uh,
Those are the relationships that matter, man. When
yeah,
we get old and crusty, those are
that's
the
what I'm.
relationships that are gonna matter. And I hope men start to realize that
Yeah,
the investments you make into your wife, into your children, they're going to pay dividends when we get older. Because guess what? We're all going to get older, man.
Mhm.
I'm only 2 years older than you. And trust me, I understand when you say time is moving fast, it is moving fast. Any
Uh,
final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Uh, Not really. Mm, Pretty much left it on there in the podcast.
All right, man. Well, hell, I'll tell you like I tell everyone else, man. I appreciate you. Appreciate your support.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate you following the show, watching the episode, just being involved. And man, I appreciate you doing this because I do understand. It honestly took me 10 years to get comfortable to even start talking about my experiences in the
Yeah,
military. And even to this day, in fact, 3 weeks ago, I went to Fort Campbell. 2 weeks prior to that, I went to Fort Knox. And just my
yeah,
anxiety getting back on post is just through the roof.
yeah,
And the people that are with me, they visibly see a change and they always ask me, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm
yeah,
good." You just have to understand that my association with military posts haven't been good ones, right?
yeah,
So, and it's crazy
yeah.
because we're talking about last deployment, 2012, 13. We're looking at 12, 13 years ago, right?
You know,
And even to this day, driving on the post, I get those same feelings of anxiety, like getting on this plane, not coming home.
yeah,
Wow, it's
I
just
can see
crazy.
that.
It's crazy
Yeah,
how the mind works, right?
yeah, I can see
But
that.
I want to let you know, man, I appreciate you as always.
And thank you. I appreciate you putting out these things. One, I get to learn from other people's experiences, the people whom I took a liking to, right? Even though like Martin Francis was a very at initial, was a very rough individual to get to know, very New York, personality.
Mhm.
But I valued the fact of how he took the time to look to invest in me to be able to learn, to stuff like that. So I value the fact that how you made these podcasts. The people who you bring on are inspirations to me. And without this podcast, I won't be able to learn their experiences. They're what who they are, right? Only saw
Mhm.
the glimpse of their career and stuff, but it always fascinated me, people's experiences. And you have brought that in the podcast. Appreciate that.
And I appreciate that, Carlos. Keep doing great things, man. Keep being a great dad. You ever come to Nashville, hit me up, man. We can
All
hang
right.
out for a little bit. I know I'm coming down. How close are you to El Paso?
Not close.
Okay.
A little too far.
Yeah, I'll be in
Uh
El Paso in October.
okay.
We're all doing a season one reunion. So everybody in
Okay.
season one, we're all getting together and we're pretty much going to we're going to pick a point
Yeah.
during one of our deployments, and we're all going to tell our stories and just pretty much shoot the shit. And I'm going to record it and
Okay.
put it
I'm
out.
looking forward for it then.
Yeah, I want the
'Cause-
world to see how everybody's aspect from life is different. We
yeah.
may be talking about the same thing, we just talk about it differently, right?
Yeah.
So once again, I appreciate you, man. Keep doing great things. All right, you have a bright
Yeah,
future
you
ahead
too.
of you. Keep loving them kids, man.
Oh,
Keep being
definitely.
a great husband. I think we're losing some of that nowadays in this country, right? The importance of
Yep.
family, and it's a great thing to be a present dad and a present
Yep.
husband, man. So keep it up. So, in closing, stay bold, stay fearless. Resilience wins battles, and story shapes legacies. I'm your host, Jason Santiago. This is Heroes Have Wings. This is my fabulous guest, Carlos Morales. Thank you for being on. I'll continue to ask you guys, continue to support the show. Keep subscribing, sharing, liking, and let's keep growing our audience so it can get as many stories out as possible because there are a lot of stories that need to be told. And you guys need to hear about all these true American heroes that I have on this show. So thank you. Once again, we'll see you guys on the next episode. You have a good night. Thank you for tuning in to Heroes Have Wings, where we honor the extraordinary stories of grit, sacrifice, and resilience. Remember, every hero's journey starts with a single step, so take yours today. If you love this episode, like, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Until next time, keep pushing limits, breaking barriers, and living your truth. I'm your host, Jason Santiago, and this is Heroes Have Wings, where legends rise.